Our microphones.
Microphone.
Did you sign mine?
I will. I'll do them all at the same time. They normally
That's what I'm looking for.
give me, that's a small
Yes,
microphone.
we got it coming.
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. This is Town of Alpine work session on November 7th, 2023. You don't need to do roll call, I guess, but since it's a work session, we keep it pretty loose. But tonight, we wanted to invite Christine, our planning and zoning administrator, to go over all the different changes they are suggesting that we make. And we've already had 2 readings on the ordinance, and the 3rd reading is coming up. So we just thought we'd invite Christine to go over any questions we had and just kind of go over them line by line. And then I've got the agenda up here. The rest of this stuff on here is basically, we're trying to prioritize what we want to talk about over the coming months, year, whatever. So we're not talking about all those things, we're just trying to prioritize. So this will kind of set our agendas for future work sessions and town council meetings. So yeah, we're not planning on being here till 2 in the morning to go over all these things. But, so basically, we'll just start with Christine. And Christine, what do you think the best way to go through this, the most efficient way, I guess?
I think this information has been put on the website. It's been provided to town council. And I think if the council members have any questions, we could go over those.
What are some of the changes that you made just recently?
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause I think, I do believe, you've been to 2 other meetings, correct me if I'm wrong, and went over the first round of changes and the second in detail. Maybe if you just brush
So
through the
there,
third.
the one big thing is, what we want to do is we want to take the re-roofs off of a minor construction permit application. And if it's like-kind materials, we want to put those on an affidavit to streamline that process. I do have a couple other things that I wanted to kind of highlight. It's in section 3, I believe.
Is that of the first packet?
So they have the land use development code in 2 parts. Would it be in the first half before chapter 4, after?
First
First
part.
part, okay.
Because that would
Thank
be
you.
chapter 3. And this is going to be more specific to the MRC district, which is the mixed residential commercial district, which has always been a hot topic
You're in part
item.
2, Eric.
I'm in part 2 right now.
On
I'm trying to
the big
get to
screen.
3.
Okay, so scroll,
Sorry, Christine, give me just 1 second. Article 2.3.
There you go, now you're in part
Still
1.
going.
yeah, I don't have the same stuff as you guys.
Okay.
No, you don't. This is going to be the
it's-
updated,
Yeah, it starts with the ordinance.
okay. I'll start
Well,
scrolling.
that's, yeah, I'll just look at yours.
Okay, so you want to get down to page
Sorry, let me change this.
58 of the.
Okay.
of That, see on the bottom where it has page 1?
Yeah.
You want to be in 58. So
Okay,
keep
I can-
rolling.
I can make it there. We've got the technology.
Okay, maximum building height.
Okay.
Under what section?
Scroll down.
Section G.
Item G.
Item
Mixed
G.
residential, commercial, keep scrolling. Keep scrolling. It's in green. Jim's favorite color.
Right there.
Here we go. Okay.
Okay, so this is the big thing, and I think that this might address some issues with various projects that could be coming down the pike in the future. So commercial building structures in the MRC, mixed residential and commercial district, can be 45 feet in height or less. Buildings with a mixture of residential and commercial use must have a minimum amount of 30% allocated for commercial businesses. The
Yep.
residential/commercial building in this zone will not exceed 3 stories.
Yeah, so this is basically where this came up is there's potential of future construction happening in the town of Alpine that they'd want this 3-story building that had 2 stories on top of residential, and the bottom could be previously, before we put this in here, the bottom could have a little coffee shop in one corner and the rest could be residential. So, it kind of became apparent that if someone is going to build a 3-story building for, in the mixed-use residential, that the bottom floor should be all commercial, the top 2 floors should be residential. So it's kind of, hopefully, closing any loophole that could have potentially come up where someone could have just put like a little, whatever, a laundromat or something in the corner of this building, and yeah, just to get the 3 levels. So I think this helps with that. Does anyone have questions on that? Because this is kind of a big,
Wow, these 3 individuals over here have been at our meeting.
Is the 30% based on the overall square footage of the structure?
yeah, well, it's intended to be the bottom floor, 2 floors or whatever.
You
So,
need to specifically say that.
well, that's what 33% covers.
Oh, 33%.
Well, how else could you do it?
Because my 33%, my 30% can say as a whole, not as a floor.
Oh, I don't think it,
It's 33% of the building.
what if they want to make the top floor commercial?
Yes, absolutely,
I
Okay.
don't care if they want to make the top floor.
but that's not what your rule says. Your rule says it has to be on the bottom floor.
Where does it say that?
No.
Oh, that was just his example.
It doesn't say that, but I'm just,
You're gonna have to put that in language that says on the first floor.
Yeah, I don't,
I don't know if I care if it's on the floor, but that's just, would someone really put commercial on the 3rd floor?
Construction-wise, how do you separate a commercial from residential in a wall form instead of a floor form? Floor form, you can pour concrete and separate the residential. You're not gonna be able to do that with a wall. So if you're gonna do it 2nd floor or 3rd floor, and you have commercial, and then somebody could put a laundromat on the 3rd floor, and how are you gonna define, how are you gonna keep that separate? How are you gonna keep the safety from the people that are next door to it? It's, the way the new codes are coming out for us now, all commercial has to be separated by 4 inches of concrete.
Okay.
So we might need to be more specific about
The only way
that.
you're gonna be able to do that is that top floor, that first floor between first and 2nd floor, that's gotta be concrete.
Yeah, I don't
Why,
see why we
why
can't
would
be more
someone
specific.
put commercial on the 3rd, like on half of the building or something?
Because you're not defining it.
Right, so they can do whatever they
They
want.
can do whatever they want.
Okay.
Because you're not defining it.
Yeah, it just,
Right.
well, but, and I explore that, what if they wanted, if you had a building and they wanted this 1/3 of the building to be commercial and that 2/3 to be residential? I mean, if they meet the building code, and the building code is the building code, the commercial building code is what it is, they would have to design it, right, to meet the code? They couldn't get a
Right.
permit unless it did.
But
Christine,
is
you know that.
Is that your intent, really? I mean, it's,
the intent is not to have it just be,
One
on the
little-
bottom floor or whatever. The
Not just have just one little teeny little 300 square foot little coffee shop, and then sky's the limit at the 45-foot height limit. So
that's what I'm saying.
he's got,
He's got
I think he's got a
valid-
valid point,
Yeah,
I think
in
so.
my
But
opinion.
what would you change it to then?
How could we be more specific?
Well, I mean, I'm just playing the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I'm listening to how you're saying it. It's like, if you're gonna have 45-foot height restriction, if you're gonna put 45 height on it, and to get that 45, your whole bottom floor has to be commercial.
Right.
But that's not what I'm saying. That's
But-
not what it reads either.
I understand that, but how are
Hold
you
on.
gonna, how are you gonna limit it? Because you're saying it's only 30%.
33%.
33, actually.
And I'm
33.
saying, 33% of the total square footage,
Yeah,
okay? So, is that the whole first floor? Then what happens if they start doing split level?
Right, right. Right,
Yeah, I mean, you have to define that, the first floor is commercial.
yeah,
that's why I don't know that we have to define it. That's why I don't know if we want to define it. Now, hold on one second. Councilman Larson. I can't understand you, sorry. Yes. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah. He's just pointing out that we need to, if you're going to speak, then to speak into the microphone.
well, I think if we did leave it unspecific like this, and people did start trying to parse it out, because you're right, we're not saying 33% in one area, we're saying 33% total, then I don't see why there would be a downside to just saying, we'd like you to dedicate a level. I mean, it takes away a little bit of their freedom, but at least it's cohesive, and it has separation for noise, et cetera.
Sure, but the structural code now is defining the separation between commercial and residential.
Yeah.
Right,
So there isn't gonna be a cost savings in any way, shape, or form if you're gonna have to, I mean, you have to sprinkle the whole building.
right,
Yeah.
But the definition now is that 4-inch slab is the separation between the commercial and the residential.
right,
I don't know how you provide that on a horizontal.
yeah,
So playing devil's,
And you have to define that.
right.
Do you, and again, just to since Councilman Larson's not here,
We need
he
to.
can't hear.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind just running up to the thing, because we want to hear what you have to say, but we want him to hear too.
Okay.
Okay?
Christine, what were you going to say?
so to play devil's advocate, you own the building, you decide you're gonna do your laundromat on that third floor, the code would require, if it's open to the public, and I could be wrong, because I'm not a building inspector or anything like that, you'd have to have an elevator to get to that top floor, to get to your laundromat, I believe. So that might be something that could be cost prohibitive to you and your structure, whether it's a laundromat or a restaurant or anything like that. But do some people have enough money to go ahead and do that? Oh, yeah, they certainly do. So, I mean,
Well, if we
I
don't
get what
designate a
he's,
floor,
I get what he's saying.
Right.
That, it could be on that third level.
right,
Yeah,
or
but I don't
if
know
you
why-
wanna just
why we
put it
care. If
on
someone
that
wants to
one
put a
main
bar
level.
on the first,
Health and safety, and if you do it and it goes against the IBC, you're.
but why, if we put this in here, they will have to use the IBC as their Bible, basically, to build it.
You're allowing it. Eric, you're allowing.
Dan, I don't understand what you're saying. Can you please come up to the mic and explain to me, just turn on the mic, what you would recommend we put?
Push the big brown button.
Oh, yeah, it's the big one on the bottom.
There you go.
Tell me what you would recommend we make this say to adhere to what you're suggesting.
All right. I would suggest that you say the first floor is only commercial.
Okay,
The
ground
ground floor
floor.
is only
Yeah.
commercial.
I don't see why you couldn't say, go to the 96%, the first floor being
commercial.
the commercial.
Right, but this
Okay.
is my question. What if someone does want to put a bar on the third floor of their building and have the ground floor be residential and
Have you zoned it for that?
it's
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 MRC.
MRC, then yes.
Okay, but have you zoned the area where they're gonna put it that, I mean, it depends.
It is, it's MRC, they could absolutely do that if they wanted to, that's what we're saying.
So how do you separate that from residential?
The IBC is the guiding principle for that.
Okay, But you have a building department and a planning department, right?
Right?
That's their job,
Right.
Yeah.
okay? It's not your job, it's your planning department and your zoning department.
Correct.
That's it. That's how it works.
Right, I still don't understand what you're trying to say.
I'm just saying, you don't get to control any of it. The planning and zoning and building department does all of that.
Right.
But I can't see, as a contractor, I can't see how you would safely separate residential from commercial if you don't say it's only on the first floor and then the floor between first and second is a concrete slab.
Right.
You just have to say it. And then it's a moot point.
And
Nobody can,
aesthetically looking,
Yeah.
I mean, at a building, okay, you're gonna have a nightclub up here, people living here, you know, I mean, I'm just saying.
No, I think that's a
anything,
good
you know what I
point.
mean? It's,
We might as well make it
It's
cohesive.
just, I don't know.
What about a noise ordinance? I mean, I've got, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, if they
So
can do
we're
whatever,
we're really getting too far into the very first thing we're talking about here. But just, if we needed to make this is basically just under maximum building height, is the first thing that we're talking about, right? So, all those other things that we're talking about, I think end up working themselves out, unless we make this 10 paragraphs. And
Correct. So the implementation, and I know you guys were at the meeting, is, you know, the fact that we want, if somebody wants to go that 45-foot height in an MRC district where you can have a mixture in your building of, you know, apartments and a small commercial area, we were trying to facilitate getting at least a third of that building in there to allow for that height restriction. If that makes any sense as to what I'm saying.
Right, so this
So
was
this
just
was
trying to
a
increase.
first quick, and I'll say quick, stab at it to get it to having a specific amount of commercial element in that building, rather than just, you know, a 200 square foot coffee shop or what have you.
Open up another can of worms with the noise ordinance, which I brought up to Rex, because I lived in an area that happened.
Right.
Commercial MRC was built right next door to us, and there was a laundromat, and there was a little convenience store, tiny. The supply trucks come in at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
When I tell you the neighborhood is there's no sleeping, ever. They deliver at those hours.
Yeah.
Right, but is it our responsibility to tell people that when you live someplace, you have to be understanding that there might be a bar on the 3rd floor, and people understand that, right?
Do the people that own those lots right next to this project understand that?
Well,
'Cause that's gonna be.
I think, here's,
This was just
Yeah.
to try to establish the specific.
We're trying to
building
close the
height.
loophole, and I
Trying to
understand.
at least tighten it up a little bit.
Yeah,
because right now,
I think it needs to be.
they could put 50% of that building as commercial, correct? Mm-hmm. They could put 25%, they could put it on the 3rd floor, they could put it on the 2nd floor.
They could do 2%.
Yeah, there's no restriction at
There's
all.
no restriction.
And they can put, so they literally could put a 200 square foot coffee shop in the corner and build 3 stories high next to. This town, as we're growing, needs commercial,
Yeah.
along with our residential. And so if they're gonna get 45 foot, they have to get it honestly.
They have to give.
Yeah.
If they want height, they gotta give.
Right.
Right.
With the commercial infrastructure.
Yeah,
I think some of those other points that are being brought up,
are valid.
they're valid, but at this point, it's more important to me to put this in and get this passed than to, we could be talking about noise ordinances and all this stuff. It could go on for years to try to get that implemented, but that's why this came up just recently. So,
Can it be said ground floor only? On any MRC project?
Whatever these
I
individuals.
think
So
it's
determine.
totally valid. I think if they want to come back to the council and say, you know what, I don't like this, I want to put commercial on the third floor or the second floor, I think that we can talk about with them, but I think it's also about seeing what Alpine wants to look like, and I don't want to look like a jumble sale, so if we could have something where commercial was just on one floor, ground floor is financially accessible for everybody, you don't need an elevator.
Well, and it
That's
sounds
what
like
I'm
the
saying.
building code is gonna take care of that.
Would
Because
I-
they have stipulations on
Right.
how it has to be separated. So we refer to the building code when
And also,
the
if somebody-
permits are issued.
Yeah,
yes, sir. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Now, commercial, be it the first, second, or third floor, you have that option. You just can't put residential under the third floor. So if you have a 33% rule, you know, that 33% could be the whole bottom floor, that 33% could be floors, say the east wing, floors 1, 2, and 3, or just something to that effect where you just
there's separation.
the commercial.
I like that. He says no residential under commercial.
Yeah, which makes sense.
All MRC I've ever seen, this stuff's been on first floor.
Yeah,
Like,
and
'cause
that's,
it's
what-
easy for deliveries and,
Right.
I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer.
yeah,
But if you have an office, you have somebody who's only working like 9 to 5, and it's just a little office. like it's-
Yeah.
It might be on the
The
second.
office is gonna be
Yeah.
quiet, you can be on the second floor,
Yeah,
so it just depends on what the application is.
Well,
Yeah.
depending upon how many people you're gonna serve, you're gonna end up with that many ways of egress also. So
Yes.
you're gonna have a stairway going back, you're gonna up, you're gonna elevator. There's gonna be a lot more, you know,
If-
restrictions on that.
yeah,
the other thing is, if somebody wants to put, let's say a bar on the third floor, and they're gonna have to come and ask for a variance. We don't necessarily need to put in here, if you wanna come and do something different, you have to come give us a variance, right?
Why would you have to get a variance if it's a commercial building?
If it's outside of, let's just say we change it to say it has to be on the first floor.
Oh, and you want to put it on the third floor?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to have to come and get a variance.
Right, so we don't need to change that under that scenario.
If you put commercials only on the first floor.
Right. And if we like the no residential underneath the
Yeah.
commercial.
and again, I mean, we're gonna look at this again, so if in a year, we feel like,
Oh, yeah, we'll always be looking at, it, but
So
I just don't
Of
think. we're
can you
gonna-
put 100% commercial building in an MRC zone? Okay.
Safety wise,
So then you're gonna have it, if you have a third floor, you're gonna have commercial on the third floor,
no residents under
Right.
commercial.
if you had a fully commercial
fully.
building, right.
Yeah.
then
But you can have a 66%.
You could have a 99, you could have 100%
Yeah,
commercial.
yeah,
In an MRC?
in an
Yeah.
MRC.
Sure, with
Yep.
no residential underneath.
Right.
A
Right.
commercial space, then I can see it.
Can you be specific on the percentage of residential and commercial?
No.
You can't, can you?
It's
Well,
up
Well,
to the
if we're,
developer.
if,
It
well,
could be 100%.
if we're
residential,
going,
it could be 100%
if we're going,
commercial.
if we're trying to achieve a 45-foot height limit, then your 33% has got to be dictated as commercial.
Right,
So that
If
they-
you're gonna go strictly residential, then you're stuck back into the 35-foot height limit.
right,
Yeah.
Which is great.
yeah. I don't know.
So the language really does designate, if I was a developer, I'd come in and say, well, it doesn't make sense, if I want residential, I have to put my commercial on the first floor.
Right.
You actually can at 45.
Right,
Am I hearing you correctly?
that's
Is
the
that-
intention,
That's your thought?
yeah. We just don't want someone coming in, putting a 45-foot, 3-story building in with 98% residential in this little 2%. You know, it's a loophole, we're just trying to close the loophole, but.
So then could we say no
Is it-
residential underneath commercial?
Oh, yeah, we could easily add that.
The whole project or
Jim, do you think that's a good addition?
Per
Okay.
building.
per building, per structure?
Commercial building structures, that's how it's phrased.
So every single building out of those 5 has, wow, that's interesting. Let's see what-
Now, okay, so they're in an MRC district, we'll use that project for an example. If this one building wants to be 45 feet in height, it has to have that commercial. If this next building over here only wants to have strictly residential, then they're gonna be held to the multi-unit residential structure in the MRC district that's gonna be 35 feet in height or less.
Right.
You don't have to go 45, you don't have to go 35, that's the height limit. But of course, as we all know, everybody does that.
Yeah, so if someone just wants to build a one-story structure, all residential, go for it. You don't have to put any commercial in. 2 stories, you don't have to put commercial in. Up to 35. If you're going above 35, the way it reads is you're putting commercial in on the bottom floor to adhere to the 33% requirement. Okay, so what do you guys think about the suggestion of putting in the no residential under the commercial?
That's probably a good
Okay, so Christine, can you add that
addition.
to your verbiage?
Sure.
I think it's smart. It covers us and,
I think you should say ground floor, not first floor. Because in some cities, ground floor and first floor are 2 different things.
but, hold on, we're not talking about ground floor. We're just adding the verbiage that you cannot put
Residential.
residential under.
Yeah,
Just throwing that out there.
it's true.
But you kind of makes them do that anyway.
Right.
No residential under commercial.
Yeah.
I'll dream something.
You'll magic wand that thing. Yeah. So the next one is a commercial building structure, MRC, buildings with mixture residential.
Okay, so where are you at?
Just the next
you
one
in-
down. Commercial, I mean, it's essentially the same, right? But this is a commercial building structure.
Buildings with a mixture of residential and commercial, right, you go back to the 33%.
Okay, now I'm confused. This is a commercial building in MRC. Then we're telling them they have to have,
I think it's just restating, if it's mixed.
It's
not
it's
100%
restating,
commercial.
if it's commercial and you still wanna go 45, it has to be at that cap. I think if we don't have it in both of those sections, that's a loophole, somebody's gonna swoop in
Yeah.
and take
Yeah,
take advantage of it. So it's just reiterating your 33%.
okay, so it's saying a commercial building structure, which is all commercial, we have to put 33% commercial in the building. That's
Right.
what it says.
That's what it says. But this is up to you guys, if you guys wanna take that out.
No, I just,
no,
I think
I,
it's-
The catch, the catch really is that MRC district, because you can have that mixed residential and commercial. I think you just have to, we've seen it firsthand.
okay, yeah, I don't care, it just seems like it's repetitive. A commercial building has to have 33% commercial in the building.
Well, that way, if you didn't catch it the first time, you
yeah,
catch
I
it
don't
the
mind
second
having
time.
Yeah, because they might say it's commercial and then like sneak in these mix.
Max height limit is 45, or 35 feet?
No, it's
I
45.
wasn't listening to you.
No, it was 45 on residential commercial, but on a commercial building, it's only 35.
No, it's
No, it's
45.
45,
For commercial.
Yep,
Anywhere.
anywhere.
yeah, if you're in a commercial district, or if you're
So our building height is,
45 feet.
is that pretty standard for towns to do, to 45 feet?
Small towns, for sure.
Big towns, yeah, they're, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
like Drew's just.
can we skip down to the parking?
Yes,
Okay, scroll down just a little bit more, item number 3.
okay.
Okay, item number 3, what we proposed is the green print. And it basically talks about increasing the parking. So In addition, designated parking spaces for the mixed residential/commercial buildings will provide for additional parking spaces as outlined in table 3-1, minimum off-street parking. Because the way that it's phrased now, if you have a, single-bedroom dwelling unit, you have to have 2 parking spaces per bedroom unit. You're gonna mix your commercial on their ground floor, you're gonna have to provide 4 additional parking for that. So we didn't wanna see that loophole. So not only do you have to provide your 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit,
Okay.
you're also gonna have to, so I'm gonna have my coffee shop, and my coffee shop's number of parking spaces is equal to 35% of the total seating capacity. So you're gonna have to increase your parking. That might
Yeah.
limit the size of your building. I don't know,
Or you
but you
just have to
need to
plan for
have, you need to have that additional parking.
Well,
You
yeah,
need
but
to have that
for the
additional
square
parking.
footage, You need
You need parking.
It's 2 per thousand.
Because we all
4 per
know
thousand, 6
parking
per
is-
thousand,
yeah.
depending on the
Yeah.
size of the space. What
So-
they're doing.
Actually, it's the size of the property,
Yeah,
because they might not be able to make both needs work.
so I think.
So I guess, Christine, my first comment is, I think you want to renumber these areas too, because you.
And that's why it's in dark. It's gonna get renumbered.
Okay,
It's renumbered.
okay. That'll all be handled.
Are there regulations for number of handicap spots then as well? Because do they need to make accommodations?
In the
That
IBC,
is dictated in a different section.
yeah.
So yes, there is requirements for however many parking spaces there is, and then however many parking space allocations there are, there's a requirement for how many of those have to be handicapped. Did you want to know what it is?
No, we don't have to.
I just was wondering if there was such a.
There is, it's in a it's in my other development standards section.
Where's this table? Is this easy?
Next page. There you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Wow. So this was what was already in there, or you just made this change?
This was already in there.
So,
What's the difference between a motel, hotel, and an inn or a lodge? What's the capacity difference?
I couldn't tell you.
Oh, okay.
A motel has
the
more,
lodge and
more,
inn has it.
To the parking lot.
yeah.
Hotels don't.
Yeah. Okay, that seems fine to me. Any comments on that last one from anyone? A lot of this we've already gone through. I'm just looking for more green, right, Kristen?
There's no more green.
Okay, no more on this one?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
Yeah, there's
done.
only a couple.
I'm done with the green.
Okay.
Can you read us all to us?
Do you want me to reread it, Frank?
All of it.
You can make,
He's
you can make somebody else do it. You better watch it. Okay. What,
Okay.
What's your next one?
So, I don't have any more green
On this
in,
section?
in part 4 or part 5.
yep. Which means, just so everyone knows, we've already gone through all these things. Anything that's in red, we've already gone through in the first 2 readings. But if anyone has any questions up here regarding any of these things, make sure you bring them up.
Okay, but I do want to skip back to part 2. Because you skipped over that.
You tell me where you want me to go.
I want you to go to page 7, part 2, first page.
Page 7, is it this one?
general requirements? That's not 2, that's 1. You want to go to section 2.2,
Oh,
go down. There you go.
2.2.
There you go. There we go. Okay, so in order to help try to clarify annexations, item A, if a property is to be annexed into the incorporated boundaries of the town, a planned unit development concept with zone identification is required to accompany the annexation petition/application.
Yep. This is important because someone that's in the county could come in and say, oh, we're MRC in the county, but that may not necessarily line up with what MRC is in the town. So basically, whatever the designation is in the county doesn't necessarily mean you're going to receive that designation in the town. Clear? Clear?
yes.
Great idea.
I think that was her idea, so we'll give her all the credit.
Okay, so then it just goes on to add a little bit more, again, back to the annexation petition applications will be reviewed for consistency with the Town of Alpine master plan. And then item C, any development on a parcel or a piece of land that is larger than 1 acre will be required to follow a planned unit development process. And then again, it goes down a little bit further, just to clarify, yet again, I just don't want I'm trying to clean up any loopholes.
Yes.
All annexation petition applications will be reviewed for consistency with the Town of Alpine master plan.
Okay, so how does the first sentence in C, how does that affect, for example, the Grove subdivision plat? It's over 1 acre.
He'd have to follow a development master plan. He'd have to
Which
follow a planned use development plan.
Which, we have that, the stipulations for that, or he has to develop it and provide it to us? Or is that, it's a different section in here?
We go back a little bit farther, we go to page 11, you have a plan unit development process.
What section is it?
Right there, right
That
there,
is-
right there.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure we had that covered as
Now,
well.
just with that said, that application has already been submitted.
Yeah, it's
So you
probably
can't,
grandfathered.
you can't go back.
Right, but I'm just
and
saying,
make
if something like in the future comes up,
Comes
someone
up.
wants to put, you know,
Exactly.
2 acres, they just need to make sure they go through the planned unit development. Okay. I think that's good. Any questions on that? Andrea?
No.
Andrea's not mad at you for doing that, Christine, so, but I think they're good suggestions.
Well, that is good to hear.
Is that all you had on here?
No, can I
Okay.
throw a couple of items that aren't on there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Talk to us.
So, I think it would behoove us, since the Town of Alpine is looking at radio read meters, and they are looking at having the communications towers, poles, whatever you want to call those, for the radio read meter to streamline the process.
Yep.
That we look at implementing a height. There is no height restriction.
Right, for
So,
those antennas.
for those antennas.
Right.
And so apparently there's been some antenna areas that have been identified, and it appears that they're all within the incorporated town boundaries. You can put, I was just telling Mr. Sanderson that in your zoning ordinance, even in your single-family residential, a permitted use are structures supporting regional and community utility systems. I don't have a definition for utility systems. I've kind of came up with one and I slid it over to him, and he's gonna kind of look at it.
Yeah.
And he's made some,
Did
and I'm
we,
gonna let him talk now.
did we have any feedback from Jorgensen on minimum heights that they needed for the antennas for the radio?
I'll get to that.
Okay, sorry.
So I guess with the definition that she provided me, I didn't have any problem with it, except for, and we're talking once again here in an R1 zone. I don't know that we want to have generation of supply of electric power in R1. You know, because that could, that's, all right, I'm gonna put in a windmill.
Right.
So I think we need to take that out, but transmission for electric power would be fine. Collection of wastewater, treatment of supply water, but it gets down to a system for transmission of telecommunications. I think it's fine as it is. Telecommunications is defined in Wyoming statute already, including cell communications, internet, all of that, so I think you're fine. I'd just take out the generation of power, really think a lot about, sewer water in the R1. I don't know that I'd want that in there. And then it also talks about a system for generation of steam or hot water. I just don't think we need to be having electricity generated in an R1.
So, just as devil's advocate, because we like to do that, there's a lift station in Alpine Meadows on our town lot. But,
But I guess, I mean, that's a good point. Can we have lift stations? Some R1s, yes. But do you want that treatment plant being placed in an R1?
Right, no.
so the other option would be if you have structures supporting regional or community utility systems, if you just removed that from your R1, that could technically,
Except for, so it says regional utilities, then you can't have power lines.
Power poles or anything.
Yeah.
oh,
You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
Which I would prefer you go to a buried system, but,
Well, that's a good question. Do we require that for any new subdivisions to bury their power lines?
We need to do that.
We need to do that.
Why don't we?
That is huge.
Because I'm not the power company and I don't dictate to you
well,
where
I
your
mean,
power
we
is.
wanna talk to LBE on
Yeah.
it, because they, every time I approach the subject, they seem to bristle because of the cost.
Right.
But, I look at it in the sense of grid protection also as far as,
Everyone's going to that anyway.
yeah, and as far as just aesthetics.
They're going to underground, I mean, they're burying all the power lines on the hill right now.
Right, it's for grid protection.
Yeah.
Right.
And more than anything.
Yeah.
We should have.
I would,
done years
I would
ago.
think we should look into it. And even if we don't do it right now, or on
Just
this,
for safety.
I think we need to look at it for the near future because,
I think it needs to be mandatory anywhere where you have forests close by,
yeah.
you know.
Well, it doesn't make sense, like all
We have it
of
in
my
my neighborhood.
subdivision was put in the late eighties and all the power lines are buried. Like, why would they now put power poles behind them?
No,
Our
they-
neighborhood too, it's all
Yeah.
buried. It's old.
The oldest neighborhood,
Mhm.
one of the oldest neighborhoods in town, yeah.
It should be very.
I think we should probably consider that, look into, talk to Lower Valley or whomever and see what, they might be fine with it. But- Mr. Scow,
Could you change the word from, to communication, rather than having electric? And just say it's just for communication purposes?
Which word am I changing?
Yeah, you were talking.
Utility system
Yeah,
or my definition?
your definition, that what I hear is, we don't want a windmill, we don't want power poles, we don't want all this stuff, but
In an R1.
you're having an R1 transmitting device for communication only.
But you also still have to have some, I mean, because the definition right there, if you just say for telecommunication, then technically, then, okay, you can't have any transmission of anything else going in. You
Well,
on the ground.
I'm just asking the question.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's
Yeah.
the
I
devil
think this
advocate.
this covers us
I
for.
just say utilities, you know, the electricity, water and sewer. That would be your definition, and telecommunications. There's your definition. I can look for a better one.
I just had to do this on the fly today. This came
you
up
did
to,
fine.
this came up today.
No,
Nobody's
that's,
judging
I'm
you.
so happy we're included.
Yeah.
Nobody's-
So with that said,
Yes.
as we already all know, we're trying to go to the radio read meters, so we need those towers, those whatever they're gonna install. I did talk to Coulter, and he was unable to get a hold of the municipal utility communications group that he's working with. But he remembers that the conversation, they mentioned 80 feet, but, you know, we're talking, it could be 90, not 90, it could be 80 feet. Teton County, planning commissioners voted unanimously to recommend the addition of 2 new cell tower communication antennas down in the Teton Village area that would exceed the former height restriction. We have no height restriction,
Right.
so sky's limit, or maybe it's not. But they proposed that the maximum height allowance of 66.5 feet was asked to increase to 70 feet 8 inches
In Jackson?
in Teton County. So, and this is more specifically at
See, because
Hotel Terra.
what they're going to do, the next step, from what I understand, is they're gonna do the propagation study, right? And
So the
they're-
propagation study is underway, and it'll be here soon. And so if we're doing some changes, they've identified these locations. This is where it is. Talk to Craig. Ideal location was going to be here at the town hall. And the other one, there was gonna be 3 of them.
No, there has to be 3, and
Over by,
they need to be strategically placed,
strategically placed.
and they could be upwards of 100 feet tall. But they're not some big, huge tower. If you look at it, it's like a pole. It's a pole with wires
pipe.
going down, so,
It's a cell tower.
no,
No, it's a pipe.
it's a pipe
a
that goes
pipe.
up and has wires. It's not, they're not putting cell towers in. This is
This
basically,
is
Antenna.
for, the town of Alpine to be able to read your meters effective.
the antenna that goes on it is like this big.
Yeah.
But they have to,
Be within a
in
certain
Frank's neighborhood
footage.
and over by Emily's house or whatever, it might even go down. So they're gonna come and say, we need to put these poles in different areas so they can all communicate. Cause it doesn't use cellular, it uses radio waves. So,
Are all the proposed?
So they are looking at Town Hall,
Okay.
Ferry Peak Park, and I believe it's over by where the current Silver Star Tower is over off
Oh,
of County
off County
Road
Road
100.
100. Okay,
How tall is that one?
that one's 60 feet.
That should be the max.
If we can get away with the antenna picking up
Have
a
you guys
signal.
talked to the airport about traffic flow for the airplanes?
they like to tell us what, they require, but,
I'm just,
yeah.
I'm just trying to cover some bases here because I don't have a
No, you have no
mechanism in my
regulation.
book.
Right.
No doubt, I'm gonna catch somebody's hair on fire, and I just wanna put that fire out before it.
My only fear is that before we do the propagation study, it's a little bit the cart before the horse, because if they come back and say, we cannot get the system to work unless they're 80 feet tall, then we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. But that's my initial,
So my only thought, that's great, that's fine. Just be prepared if this, from what I understand, this might be a springtime project. from what my indications have been.
So if we put in something in the land use development code, wherever it goes, that says the tallest tower you can put in is 70 feet, and then they come back and say it needs to be 75 feet or 80 feet for it to even work, then they come and get a variance and they come to town council and we decide at that point whether we allow it, right?
Or we go through the whole,
Shoot
Kit and
match again.
caboodle.
yeah.
Oh, I'd say a variance is doable.
Christine, was Teton Village worried about and how they're actually gonna look? Did they talk about camouflaging somehow?
Oh, it was just a little,
Blending it with the sky?
I was just Googling something and it just looked like, you know,
I will tell you, because this has come up
it
with
didn't say
a
anything.
different topic with the cellular tower that, a group's looking to put in town. The town does have a lot of power when that happens, because we're the authority that allows them to build it there. So we can say, yes, we want to, you go ahead and put it in, but it has to look like a tree or something, or we just don't allow it. So that's my initial take. I don't know what the law says, I don't know, but basically, we're the ones that are granting them the ability to put it up. So we have a lot of say in what that looks like. I personally would rather see a tree, a cell tower that looks like a tree versus the alternative. Yeah,
All
so,
of them up there in Teton County look like a tree.
yeah, I mean, you can't,
I think they all should.
Is there a possibility you could?
Yeah, except for the one in church, but.
Could you do a cell tower and one of these things together?
so that's another point, is that we haven't even considered it yet, we haven't gotten that far, but we could obviously suggest that one of the locations is the cell tower over by Alpine Road.
That would be the
And then-
highest and best.
And then
Yeah.
we see if that's one of the alternatives.
And they do have space for
So-
that. And if it's already a proposed location.
Over Alpine Road near the airport?
Yeah, so if you take a left on County Road 100, you'll see a 60-foot cell tower there.
Oh, okay. So
Right near the
it's
red
over
barn.
The landing over there?
It's
Right,
all-
that's
it's
already been in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they just boosted all the technology on it. So,
Do
well,
you guys have a strong feeling on the towers, how, the height and
as
all
far
that
as the
stuff?
height,
Yeah.
my vote's 60 feet. And if we have to change that, that's fine. I don't wanna misspeak on what they need for radio antennas. But looking at a 60-foot tower over on County Road 100, I don't wanna
I don't
impede
know
on
if
anyone's
that's 60
view.
feet.
That's what he said,
It doesn't look 60 feet to me.
What
I'd
does
love
that
for
mean?
somebody to,
He can send us the schematic,
Yeah.
but I asked him and he said it was 60 feet.
yeah, it seems
Taller,
shorter,
shorter?
yeah.
Okay.
So we should get clarification on that.
Yeah, I'll email to tonight.
Andrea, what do you think is a reasonable height?
I kind of feel like your cart before the horse thing is on point. We don't know yet.
No.
So it might be better to wait until we have a little more information on what we're going to need for our project.
Yeah, especially with the cell tower, the potential cell tower. I mean, that's starting at like 60 feet. That's the lowest one I've heard of.
Yeah.
So,
I think we need to keep it out there as something we need to address, but we need more information first.
In which case, then we would move forward without any number in our land use development codes.
Frank, what do you think?
I think we may just keep it on hold. I mean, it's not that critical, not everybody's building antennas, it's not like one of those crucial things.
Yeah,
Like
it's-
building height restrictions
It's
and
coming,
stuff like
it's
that.
coming soon, but
Yeah,
Well, yeah. What
I
would the
ju-
impact be if we didn't have a decision, Christine?
Sky's the limit, there's nothing in there.
Yeah, see, that's.
So I could get a 75, 100-foot pole.
is there any sort of,
You put it
But-
at 60, and then they'd have to say a variance to
Yeah.
come in, and then you can decide.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
the best way to go about it. I don't see why that would be super difficult.
yeah, I
And at
just,
least we have something.
I just worry because if you do 60, then, I mean, obviously that's setting the ceiling height. And if they come back with this propagation study and say they all have to be 80 feet, then we're already like, why do we do 60?
Well,
So-
how
Well,
difficult
then
would
you
it
just
be?
amend it, and-
Yeah,
Right, but do we want to have to come someone come in every single time, I guess.
Well, I mean, I guess how many times
I
have we
don't
been
think-
asked to do it?
Right,
itself?
this is the first we've had.
Sorry.
I mean, at some point, it becomes economically unfeasible for a communications company to compete with another tower when they can just sublease the traffic off that tower.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
So here's the thing, what if, we say 60-foot tower, but like, the 60-foot is where the antenna needs to be, and the tower part needs to be 5 feet above it, or whatever, like, again,
you
It- if-
wanna ask a telecommunications company.
I know, that's why, like, should we, why 60? Why don't we just make it 50 feet or 20 feet? If you want a tower taller than 20 feet. You know, over here on the building, these guys have
Yeah.
some sort of communication, which, you know, would be grandfathered in, but, I
Well,
think that's
60
probably,
feet seems to be the minimum for a cell tower, where it can still pick up some signal. And I'd rather set the bar high aesthetically than,
can you come up with something that we can present in a couple weeks? And then we'll
Sure.
make that change. The language, the section where it would go. And ask Mr. Sanderson to, help you with,
Please. Okay, are we good with adding this utility system?
let me read it again.
With the approval of our legal counsel? And then I only have one more thing, and then I might be done talking.
Okay.
Okay. So what I'd like to do in section 6 is definitions. We seem to be having a little bit of an issue. So I'm looking at section 6, which would be section 2 for you guys. Scroll all the way down to page 132.
I only go up to 80 on this.
Well, but look at the bottom of your page.
Oh, sorry.
So
This
you're
is
at 17.
17.
Must be in section 1. There you go.
Okay, one,
Scroll all the way,
let me just go down a bunch.
go. Keep going.
94. Which one did you say?
Well, I'm on page 132. I don't know what you got. Oh, okay, go, just scroll down to where K's are, kitchen. Seem to be having a lot of issues lately with, okay, there you go. Kitchen shall mean an area used or designated to be used for the preparation of food. I think we need to revisit that, and my proposal is, we change that definition. Kitchen shall mean area used or designated to be used for the preparation of food and shall contain permanent provisions and shall not, contain permanent provisions for the cooking, storing, and preparation of food consisting of a sink, refrigerator, oven, or a cooktop. Now, with that said, if you, and I know you guys don't have your papers in front of you.
So tell us why this is.
So this is why this is happening.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that are putting in little
cooktops.
rooms, accessory structures, or whatever. And our regulations stipulate that one family or non-family household will primarily occupy a single-family dwelling unit. However, owners might provide room and board for up to 3 persons who are not related by blood or marriage, provided there is no separate kitchen attached or detached to the primary and/or accessory structure. So the whole issue has been, what exactly is a kitchen?
Right.
Okay, so the standard has always been if it's a cooktop. If we look at this definition, it
Definitely
says,
expanded on that.
we're expanding on it, and so in essence, people are taking R1 zoning properties and they're turning it into R2s.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yep.
that's not right. So,
Yep, they're trying to rent out their,
garage,
whatever, the mother-in-law suite.
barn, whatever.
Cooktop and then
Yeah.
kitchen.
So, that's why I kind of would like to, did I show that to you? That's kind of why I'd like to change that verbiage a little. Make it more clear-cut, more definitive.
So then it becomes something that we can actually,
Enforce.
enforce.
So,
Right now.
So is this your proposed as it is, or you want to change this?
That's my proposed.
Okay, because, yeah, because it says shall contain permanent provisions for
So this is what I have now.
showing areas, visit, yeah.
Perfect.
Sounds good to me.
Oh, I like sitting down here.
Well, let you come anytime you want.
Yes, we'll get you a chair.
Yeah. permanent-
No,
permanent.
no,
We'll-
no.
We'll add 3 feet on the end of that table.
As long as there's not a kitchen.
Yeah. Make it a permanent oven. Is that all you have, Christine?
I think, does anybody else have any questions? I mean,
Does anyone have a problem with that last one? No.
we're really trying to strive to get that snow storage identified, get that passed for that 20% requirement.
Yes.
Increase the overall parking from 400 to 600, which was back previous revisions ago. And then these other additional ones with neighboring parcels and just issues that we've seen. We know that there's always changes that need to be done. Every permit that
Yeah.
walks through the door has something that needs
I
to be
think you've been
looked at and or addressed.
working on these for many years.
Forever.
And this is kind of,
Oh,
things
what-
keep coming up.
The
so.
first thing that you mentioned was the change in the re-roofing permit. Could you
Yes.
go over that really quickly one more time? You said
So-
it would change from a permit to an
So,
affidavit.
a lot of people like to do re-roofs.
Right.
And they do not like to pull permits.
Yes.
And it is a requirement that you pull a roofing permit.
Right.
If you are, even if it's minor construction permit, minor construction permits come to the commission. So that means you kind of have to wait.
Right.
So if you're doing like kind materials, so Frank's gonna go ahead and do a re-roof, he's gonna take off his comp shingles, he's gonna put new comp shingles on, he's doing all like kind materials.
Right.
Putting that re-roofing application on an affidavit, he can fill out his affidavit.
Okay.
He can be a weekend warrior.
He can
and
speed it up.
Go out there and do that, and
Okay.
it
It
helps
doesn't have to,
streamline.
we don't have to have somebody come out and inspect it.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to wait for the monthly,
Yes.
you
Yeah,
know, or
the meeting
bi-weekly
to happen,
meetings to
basically.
get it.
The alternative is, the adverse of that is if someone is going to, let's just say, a metal roof
Right.
to an asphalt roof.
Right.
So then, instead of the snow running off the roof, it's going to stay on the roof.
Right.
That would force us to have engineering, they'd have to come to us and say, the engineering will be substantial to hold the snow on
Right.
that.
That
You don't have
roofing
the same
application would
snow
stay
load.
on that minor construction
Okay.
permit. They would have to come to the commission
Yep.
to get that permit approved.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of re-roofs lately, a lot of older homes, which we know that they do not have 100-pound snow load.
Right. Right.
So,
So we are still covered for that
that's great.
situation.
Right, so if you're
Right.
not like to like.
Yeah.
if you're not like to like, you have to be on a minor construction
Okay.
permit application.
Okay. That sounds
So
good.
what's the cost of that permit?
$250, but if you start it.
It's not enough.
I know, but if you start it ahead of time, I'm gonna double your fee.
We've had a few people in the town.
That's a different ordinance.
Out there doing their re-roof without coming to see
Yeah,
the administrator, so.
but,
I mean, we've all know that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep this thing moving forward.
okay,
It's
I
8
think
o'clock,
I'm
so-
done.
Okay, thanks,
For-
Christine.
If there's no
Whatever.
other questions for Christine.
So are we gonna move fast enough with this? I know you have applications in the
Yeah,
pipeline.
It can be a couple
but-
weeks.
We're gonna be.
Any application that I have already date stamped falls under the old regulations.
Okay,
Once you guys pass it, if I get any applications in, it gets date stamped, new rules come into effect.
And I think this covers us pretty well for most of the things that have come up recently. So,
thank you for
good job,
all of your work
Christine.
on that.
Thank you.
Good job.
Oh, here's that.
Well,
So
let's-
Christine, you were saying F, it would change, just so I'm clear. What's the definition?
Huh?
This-
We're
You're just taking out the generation and supply of power.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so, yeah, it'll just.
Jim's
go
gonna
from-
review it for me.
Okay,
Yeah, that'll become A.
That was just my quick,
your quickie.
on the fly.
Okay. Thanks, Christine.
Do I need to be here for anything else?
Let's just see real quick. Yeah, we're gonna talk about chickens later, but,
My favorite subject.
we don't want you here for that one.
Puppies.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so, and I've talked to everyone, I think, about this, but I would like to create a board of education in the town of Alpine. And this would be a board of up to 5 people. And their purpose would be to look at all the options for getting a school in the town of Alpine. And there's 3 different types of schools you can get. You can get a public school, you can get a private school, or you could get a charter school. And there's a long history of Alpine not having a school, which we don't need to rehash right now, but the long and short of it is, the town of Alpine actually sued Lincoln County 20 years ago, and we didn't win that, and we still don't have a school. And we invited the school board administrators to come and speak to us earlier in the year. If anyone wants to see that meeting, it's posted on our YouTube page, but they said, our hands are tied, we can't help you. You need to, if you want a school, you need to handle it yourself. And a charter school is probably the best way to go about it. So, but there are hoops that you have to jump through to get a charter school. But the timing may be right now. There may be some charters that are out there that aren't being used, that we could slide in and get a charter, but we need to figure out who's gonna pay for it. You know, the state, basically, it has to go in front of the legislature and they have to fund it for us. So this board would kind of be a quick action that could give a recommendation, because there are consultants, for example, that can help us through this whole process. And instead of our board going and spending hundreds of hours doing research and stuff on things that we don't necessarily know, we hire someone that knows how to work the whole system, and potentially we could have at least a document together that they could take to the legislative session and say, listen, the fastest growing town in Alpine, or fastest growing town in Wyoming does not have a school. What are we gonna do about that? So, anyways, I've asked Emily if she would sit on the board, and she said she would, but is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, I just think that there's an added component. I think that we all want to fast track everything, but if there's a financial aspect to hiring a legislative consultant, then that's something that we would need to, I know we've talked about fundraising, but before we go out spending money at this point in time, I would really like to already have that consulting fee in the bank, see where we're at, and then move forward. But everybody is in favor of trying to move forward.
The biggest
with
thing
the
was
school.
the Board of Education would basically give us their recommendation on what we could do. They don't work autonomously, they don't have the right to hire anybody, they just come to us and say, we recommend you hire somebody, if you have the money, if you
Right.
don't, whatever, we think you should fast track it, we think this should take a year, we need to do a lot of research, but it kind of insulates us a little bit from making decisions, and also
Gets the ball rolling.
gets the ball rolling and gets involved citizens that care about it, to get them involved in helping, so that's,
We already have 3.
yeah, we have 3 people. We're
Yeah.
actually looking for a couple more people if anyone would be interested. You have your hand up?
Not because I'm interested, because I have a question
Yes.
to clarify. What are the grade levels that you're looking at for the school? and
That's
what's
a great
the school
question.
capacity?
We don't know any of those answers, and that's what this board would do. There would be, a survey would probably more likely have to happen, and we would survey the whole area. I mean, the type of school, whether, I mean, anything's on the table. It could be a vocational school. We could figure out, like, we have a need for a vocational school here that would be just for high schoolers or whatever. Like, we don't know what it would be, but that's just an example. I would think the most likely thing, the biggest need that we have is like a K through 6. And, but there's other options. If Etna changed from, what is it? It's third,
Etna's fourth, fifth, and
fourth,
sixth.
fourth, fifth, and sixth. If they changed that to K through 6 and it was only 10 minutes down the road, that may change what we thought we needed here.
Okay, so it's branching out to other communities, not just Alpine.
Of course, yeah, because honestly, if we put a charter school in here that was well thought of, we could be pulling people,
From
students
Jackson.
from, well, Jackson, but
Yeah.
also Idaho, I mean, Irwin, Swan Valley,
Right.
places like that, they may
Do
be
we know
interested.
if what Etna wants to do or has plans to do?
Etna doesn't get to choose, that's the school
That's
board.
the school board,
Yeah.
yeah.
They're looking at changing both Thane and Etna to K through 6 instead of splitting them.
Instead of the pod
It-
system.
Well,
Yeah.
wouldn't the high school then be more useful and
It would be very useful, but I spoke to a couple high school teachers, and they said it would cost so much to replicate the programs that are currently available at our high school in Afton, that it would just be
It'd be
unattainable.
virtually impossible. For example, my daughter's into orchestra. She plays the cello. For her to get the same quality of teacher that you have and also a class of 30 other students that are playing whatever, we're never going to be able to get that. We couldn't offer all the programs that they do down there. They do an amazing job. So, yeah,
Because that was my next question too, is where do you think they're gonna get the labor to feed teachers and
Right.
administrators, and, I mean, that's a lot of people.
that's right.
Yeah.
Hold it and they will come.
Yeah, that one's, I think, easier than you expect, because there's so many people that pass right by here to go teach in Jackson, that if we had a school here, I think we'd be able to fill positions relatively easy, but that's just me.
But we'll have to see who's already here.
Jackson has to pay that much for people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have to pay that much. We can probably afford a little bit less, but, anyways, that's the thought. I don't wanna spend too
Those
much
are
time
all
on
great
that, but
questions. Yeah.
Monica, what do we have to do as far
Just
as
a resolution, correct?
Oh,
Yeah,
resolution only?
Okay.
Okay.
well, if you're gonna create an actual board that,
Do you want an ordinance?
yeah, you'd have to have an ordinance to create an actual board. If we're just talking about something that's more of a committee,
Yes.
we can just do it by resolution.
Okay, so we need to talk about what their responsibilities are and all that? We need to
If-
determine that?
If your board is just, I mean, it's like,
It's an advisory board, basically.
well, it's an advisory board, but you can have an advisory committee too. The board doesn't have any.
I don't care if we call it a committee or a board or whatever.
Yeah, well, I'm just talking about, are there going to be people coming to this education, I'm sorry to
Mhm.
overcomplicate it, Mayor, but, coming to this and seeking some sort of constitutional right out of this board? No,
No,
Right.
because they were stepping on the toes
Of
of
the
the
school board.
already
Right.
school board.
Instead of
So I
school.
think it should be a
Advisory committee.
just a
Okay.
resolution.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Committee
I'll
for
go for that.
education?
Yeah.
Or we'll come up with a
We
name
have to
for it,
come up
but,
with
or
a
can
better
it still
name.
be called a board?
You can call it, yeah, you could call it, I don't think the name is.
I just don't want
It's
to-
its function,
Okay,
yeah.
I would prefer Board of Education, but it just rolls off the tongue.
Well, I would just call it the Alpine Public Education Board, or Public Education.
Okay, committee, that might be fine. Public Education Committee,
There you
Let's
go.
do-
I like that, actually.
okay.
Public Education Committee, that way you're not, people aren't confusing it, well, this is a.
With the school board,
Yeah,
that
Okay,
is a
that's
good
smart.
point.
That's a
That
good
is a good
distinction.
point.
because slow people like me get confused.
Well, we want to, yes, for you. So if there's no other question on that, I'll move down the line here real quick. So speed calming devices, this is something that you've been working on,
Yeah,
correct?
I read
So,
it
yeah,
somewhere,
so
another
we had there was suggestions from you guys.
Yep.
I don't have them all.
That's okay.
So, I just want to make sure before we finalize this that I'm right and we can get it
Can you pull up
updated.
what his latest
So-
version is?
So I just sent you a new one that is fixed, but
Yeah, but I think there's that 85th percentile, is that removed? I want to make sure before we
I
go
think
for the
that
final
one-
reading.
I think he crossed out that one, but can we
Yeah,
pull it up?
Yeah, let me.
He just emailed it to her. It sounds like he was working on it. He was multitasking.
Today,
He wasn't-
tonight? I
yeah.
didn't realize.
He
it
does
was
that a
tonight.
lot.
Multitasking that, I was like, well, why do I have to do fixes? Oh, maybe I didn't do it.
So this is speed calming devices. This is in certain areas of town where certain neighborhoods have people like driving 60 miles an hour on a side-by through a residential neighborhood. It could be anywhere, but yes, that has happened, yeah. But yes, so that is kind of the reason why this came up, and we all agree that there's a need. So we just looked at the ordinance, it's been months ago, but
Yeah, I think it did take the 85%, because it's not coming up.
Yeah, so it was E in section 3. And then the other thing I wasn't sure that I don't think, Jim, you and I talked about, is that what is on this original is F. There was a conversation, I think, about it shouldn't be, it says it shouldn't be within 200 feet of the intersection, but I think the message was, that's a long ways in Alpine.
Didn't we change it to 50?
Did we, 50? That's what I, okay.
Well, I think it says, does it still say 200 on
It
this?
does.
On mine.
Okay.
So I haven't gotten the new one.
This, I did send you the one I said, not this one, on your email.
Okay,
Okay, so it does say 50 feet, yeah.
okay,
So I did it before, I just didn't send it.
okay.
so
And then the only other thing was the percentage of people that had to agree. Was there something about that?
2/3.
Okay. Yeah, I
and
think,
that's a minimum of how many feet around the location or whatever? Or how did we figure that?
I just said 2/3 of the residents immediately adjacent to proposed.
yeah,
So if there's 4 people there, or 3 people
Okay.
Immediately,
adjacent to where
Adjacent.
the proposed bump is going to
okay.
be.
then we're good then. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
they
Yes.
should be- yeah, they're
They will be
not-
removed
They,
in winter.
they can't,
Yeah.
yeah, they can't stay in the winter.
Yep.
And the ordinance does require that if somebody wants them, unless there's money in the budget, which this year there's no money in the budget because this wasn't part of our budget, but whoever wants them has to pay for them. So, or wait until we have money in the budget.
Call it sleeping police.
Yeah.
Sleepy.
Okay.
They're in the shape of a policeman laying down. Okay, so we could actually have that for the next town council. meeting.
Yeah, the final reading.
Okay, it's ready.
If I got it, we're done then.
Okay,
Perfect. Thank you, Jim.
The one that says this one, not the first
Okay.
one I sent you, because I sent you the wrong version.
Okay, this one.
we can, so that'll be the final reading
Yes, sir.
on the 19th, right?
21st.
21st.
I'm sorry. Yeah, 19th is next. Okay. Christine, you're still here. I don't know why you're here.
She loves her chicken.
Because I think that you're gonna be talking about.
I'm not gonna talk about you. You are so paranoid.
I
So
In my office, we talk about you all the time.
I know.
what we wanted to do was, we have a list of topics.
And there may be more that I don't
We
have
will
on
be
my
adding
list.
to this list of all the time, but I'm just gonna read through these, so we have 3 people at home listening, so I want to make sure they know what we're talking about. But this is a list of ordinances and topics that we're interested in, and I just want to prioritize and talk about which ones, we should take on first, because this is a pretty big list, but, so new
You're
what
done,
is it,
guy.
9 o'clock yet? New annexation ordinance, and specifically, we need to talk about fees and the review of the annexation for consistency with master plan and appropriate zoning. We kind of covered that a little bit with the land use development code changes. New speed limit ordinance, that's specific to one neighborhood.
No,
One road.
so I had forwarded you guys that
No,
memo.
that's not his intention, so we need to talk to him about that.
Okay, because
Yeah,
that seemed like
His
a lot
memo
of signs.
outlines
His memo outlines
Every
every
road.
street in the town about.
Yeah.
in the town of Alpine.
So we need to talk to him about that, because I don't think that's what he's trying to do.
Oh,
There was only one one road in particular that he wants to change from 25 to 15,
Oh,
from the conversation I just had with him.
okay.
Yeah,
So-
no, that,
Well, then
his,
let's- yeah,
this
get
certainly says he
clarification.
wants an ordinance for all streets and roads.
Yeah, so that's very unlikely to happen, so I think we could probably, that's not super
Okay.
important. But if he wants to change the speed limit on this one particular road, like he mentioned to me the other day, then I think we could probably look at that. What's the?
How do we enforce that, Jim? Just from a, I don't know what I'm talking about, because I'm new.
No, I think that's a good question.
Enforce the
Speed limit?
So, yeah, so how does that get enforced? If there's not an ordinance that sets speed limits, how's that work?
In general, it's a superintendent zone and it's determined by the county. There's no ordinance. I don't think we have an ordinance that said that this area is 25.
Right.
I mean, the general ordinances is all town streets or what, 25.
It's just like,
Okay,
but then otherwise posted or something,
But
right?
then you, yeah, unless otherwise
So-
posted. So you just go posted 15 and,
Yeah.
okay.
the only thing is that you also need some sort of posting that speed will be reduced, giving notice that
okay.
it's not
A non and
Okay.
25, okay.
So there is an ordinance in effect that says all town roads are this speed limit unless they're posted otherwise?
You did?
I saw something on
I've
the land
looked
use
high and
development
low.
code.
I can't find
I
it.
think it's in your land use development code. I saw something when I was scrolling through.
It's also in the criminal code.
Okay,
You might wanna
we'll
read it.
check on that.
Laughing at you.
And your criminal code refers to state that's residential.
But there has to be some logic to the speed too, just so you know, right by the library it's 15, and by the daycare it's 25.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You wanna get a good run at it.
Yeah, you gotta speed up to hit those kids. You're never gonna,
My head on that one.
I
Yeah.
never
Speed
noticed
up
that.
to
I'm
hit
so
the
glad
middle.
you mentioned that.
yeah.
That's funny.
We want you to be able, before you hit the hill going down, you gotta really pick up your speed.
We have.
Oh, okay, we can definitely.
Yeah,
work on
and
that.
so
Definitely have to really look at it.
our public works director, yeah, we will have to look at all these different areas, but let me just keep going through the list real quick and figure out what's a priority
Okay.
here. New election signage ordinance. There may be other things that we need to add to, or do we even have an ordinance for elections that stipulate?
Can't have a polling place.
It's the state
You have,
statute,
you
which
have
is,
a section in your land use development code
I think it's really vague.
for
Oh, I didn't
election signs.
The reason this is coming up is that the most recent election we had last year, there was signs stolen from people that were running for office. And,
Well, and there were signs placed on areas that,
yeah, I mean, there was signs placed on places, locations that they're not allowed, and people taking signs. And we're trying to take the state statute and go one step above, because it's not dictated in the state statute. And there might be a few other things that we'd like to add to it. I don't think this is a huge priority. I think we can do this in next year. So I think we could move that down. Directional signage ordinance, that's something that we've been talking about for a long time.
Can I
Yes.
just double back real
Yep.
quick? In your land use development code, under temporary sign standards, you do have freestanding election. Your maximum square feet is 16 feet. There's a no fee, must be removed within 7 days after election date. The only thing that maybe I could suggest is that freestanding election signs need to be placed on private property.
I mean, you could
No.
put that one word in there, and that covers that, but I think we also need an ordinance.
Yeah,
In the
yeah, I'm just,
meantime-
in
in
the,
the
in the,
meantime.
yeah, in the meantime, if that's something that you're interested in.
Isn't that
Just thought I'd
still
throw that
anyway?
out there.
There's an election today. Are we too late to get this in for today?
Kind of, just a little.
Thanks. Okay.
If you would have talked about it at 8 o'clock.
Well, let's talk about that.
can we put a pin in
It's
that?
gonna be like it's a, if,
That you'll be fined if you're caught removing someone's election
and
sign.
who's gonna find you since you don't have a police department?
You
We,
can do it by affidavit.
yeah, that process is all, if you're caught, yeah, we can, we can get you if you're breaking the law.
Dan's asking.
Don't worry about,
somebody
yeah,
there,
you're
so
trying to
Steve-
bend the rules, aren't you, Dan? We know you. Okay, directional signage ordinance. So this is specifically directed towards, so, for example, the town owns property down here that happens to have a brewery on it. Just happens to have a brewery. But we also have a library over here. We have the CDC over here. What we would like to do is put a sign up that directs people to that library or the brewery or whatever else. And potentially, it's very easy on this side of town because we have town property that we could put the sign on. Other parts of town, we don't necessarily have the property. We're not looking for a sign that says Melvin down here or what other, the Bank of Jackson Hole over here.
Right,
or
it's
whatever.
non-business specific.
Yeah, it just says like this, the library's here, the brewery's here, this. So I think we're just trying, we don't currently have an ordinance in place or something that allow us to do it. Correct, Christine? Okay. So this is basically just to allow us to do that. There's been feedback from people saying, well, if you have one on that side of town pointing to the brewery, I want one pointing to my business on the other side of town. So we haven't figured all that stuff out, but, you know, we will eventually get there. But that's what that's regarding.
I have a quick question
Yes.
about that. Just with the temporary, just Melvin specific, with
Yes.
the temporary brewery signage,
Mhm.
so that people would not be going all around Riverview Meadows.
Yes.
Have we seen success? Have we heard less
It's
complaints?
hard to determine, like, in the summer, I think it helped,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah,
Because I live in this neighborhood and, I mean, you can count the number of times a week someone drives in and you can just tell because they're doing one of these and they're like, roll down your window. Yeah, just go up here, take a left and you're there, you know. It seemed like these temporary signs they put up helped.
Are you talking about those big blue?
yeah.
Yeah, it just
They
says,
definitely helped, because it was, I could see the traffic nonstop.
Okay.
yeah, it's
And
the,
they were heading all in the right direction.
Okay.
yeah,
Maybe one or two got lost, but
Right.
I know, I even noticed
Sue
that.
is out with her.
Well, you know, I sense everything.
so that's,
That's good.
I don't
Okay.
think that's a huge priority, but, you know, it's, I would like to have something, I mean, our temporary signs are probably gonna help us even through the winter, but we'll see.
I mean, couldn't you sell it like advertising? If somebody had a business and they wanted to be directed, you could have the big board.
That's the problem, that we come, I mean, eventually there's gonna be a lot more businesses, and then we run out of space, you know? Like, how do you put every single business on there? So,
And again, some of the concern is WIDA has a very specific program for signage.
yeah,
So if somebody wants it out along the highway, they're gonna have to comply with their standards. So this is on town, this is
Right.
in town, outside of their right of way. So if somebody wants that to be directed down to their business down Grace River Road, there's nowhere to put it unless, I mean, we don't own any property
right.
there.
We'd have to get approval from the bank or
Oh,
from.
yeah, so
Yes.
do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that creates this awkward, it creates awkwardness.
Yeah.
It really does.
So we'll have a lot more time to talk about that.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
About, like, putting a sign directing people to the library, putting a sign on town property, directing people to the library,
Correct,
directing people to Melvin's, which is town property.
right.
So I don't think private businesses, if we can say, well, you know, the town can say, you know, we're directing, this is on our property, town property, we're directing them to town property.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a business, but we
Yeah.
get something from Melvin's, right, for them having, I mean, do we get income from Melvin's?
Yeah, they pay rent and they water and things like that, but we own that property. You know, we own the 6 acres, so it behooves us to send
Right.
people down there and not have them, you know, getting lost in the
In the
neighborhoods.
neighborhood.
But I mean, isn't the fact that it's town property,
Yep.
if the sign is on town property,
Yeah,
that's kind of different than the bank saying, or somebody
Yep.
down Grace River saying, we want you to put a sign up.
Yeah.
They would say, well, you know,
Pat, I'm so glad you're here. So we're gonna have you stand up when we do this. It's so obvious, but that's
No.
a very good point, because that's what, we wanna make sure that is clear, you know? And we wanna write the ordinance so it allows, if we end up putting another one, say, on the other side of town, and a business gets approval from Ace or whomever on the corner to put one up,
Yeah.
we would like it to also be
Be-
similar to the one that
Yeah.
we have. So we want to, you know, kind of standardize it a little bit. So that's kind of the idea behind it. So I think you've already got it, so thank you. Dark sky ordinance, this is a real important one. This one's real easy too, but basically copying what other communities have done. Anyone have any comments about this? This is, I think, real important and pretty easy to accomplish, don't you? Yeah. What do you think?
I was just gonna say, does that change?
So, I would like it to, for example, if there's a neighbor that has a light that shines out and you can see it, I think that we just need to encourage them to put a downcast light, you know? So, I actually think, Jamie,
Oh,
There's
man,
your
this
excuse
means
to
I
leave.
gotta move.
pull up your seat.
He's bringing his own chair.
Oh, she's ready to run out here and get Jeremy.
well, I'm just waiting for one other,
Excellent point.
Which is, you can see it from.
Yeah, forever. Yeah, yeah. So, yes, that definitely brings up a great point. I think we probably need to handle all of that, encompass all that into this ordinance and clarify what expectations are. She just asked about, we're talking about dark sky ordinance.
Just came from dark sky.
Yeah. All you saw was dark sky. But, you know, KJ's, I can see KJ's from my house. But, yes, that's something that I think the community would have a lot to say about, so.
In darksky.org, it goes over, it gives sample ordinances, it talks about all the areas that have been licensed under dark sky. It talks about some of the troubleshooting that they've done, both with
That's awesome.
commercial lights, residential lights. I mean, I just pulled it up today and it goes into an incredible amount of detail, and we can just pick and choose and see what works for the
So long
community.
as it has jurisdiction over existing structures versus new construction. Yeah. Should,
That's a
We,
good question.
if we write it into it, then I think we can handle it.
well, KJ's is county, isn't it?
They're in the town.
They're in the town?
Lucky for us.
When their lights were installed, they
Yes.
were in the county. When that building was done, it was in the
Then
county.
they got annexed to.
And then they got
But
annexed.
they also complied too with town ordinances.
At the,
on the
at the
At the time.
time, I think they did.
Right. No, that's a good question, how we would handle that.
So,
So
yes,
I think we should check with the legality of
grandfather.
dictating,
Yeah.
dictating, how's that gonna work with an existing building that was built in the county, we annexed in, we knew
Mhm.
what was going on.
Grandfather.
Well, right,
Can we strongly encourage them to change it?
I guess if you really wanted to get technical, every time they change a bulb, now they're in violation.
Right.
They have to change it, but
Yeah,
they
yeah.
don't wanna be that way, I guess if they're going to, I mean, every 10 years or so, commercial buildings like that change their light.
Exactly, like
And
their,
so,
the structure ends
yeah.
up changing or whatever, so.
So you would have it in place, and then when they change it, they've gotta change it according to code.
because I mean, it's their building structure, it's not just they put a light out, it's the whole building is lit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's-
I have a neighbor over there that, I mean, you have to have your shades down or it's like, the whole thing. So we will definitely, I think that one's pretty, very, very good topic to discuss. That should probably be a priority. Short-term rental ordinance, this is basically, limiting or somehow requiring a permit to have a VRBO. there's certain areas in town where out of a street of, 5 houses, 3 of them are VRBOs currently, sort of thing. So, this one is probably gonna be a hot topic, but, I don't know.
I
What do you
looked
guys
up
think?
Star Valley's rental permits.
Yeah,
Just because they just implemented it, and I wanted to see if there was any limitation, and unless I'm
Star Valley
reading their
Ranch.
permit wrong.
Star Valley Ranch.
Yeah, oh, sorry, Star Valley Ranch, very specific area. They are just issuing permits, and there's some regulation with obtaining that, but as far as limiting, I didn't read anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well,
You just need to get a permit.
and yeah, and the other consideration, Christine mentioned it earlier, we have a lot of people who have created rentals that we don't know about. And so we don't even know that they comply with codes. And so perhaps by regulating all rentals, by requiring them to get a permit, we can have a positive impact on
Health and safety too.
kitchens that aren't really kitchens, and don't have the basic safety.
Yeah, and Star Valley Ranch put in a yearly inspection.
Okay,
That was
yeah.
required to receive your permit. And after an initial fee, they've said $250. If you renew yearly, it's $125.
Very nice.
So it's
yeah.
not making it a financial burden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's talking to your neighbors, making sure that your neighbors understand that you're trying to do a VRBO.
That's a great idea.
That's smart. And I think it
It's a
becomes,
good ordinance to me.
like a 3-strike you're out sort of thing. Like,
Yeah, there's, if you have complaints, that's all logged. You can have your permit revoked.
So no percentage?
No,
yeah, I don't know if we can necessarily say percentage, but it's.
I think that would be difficult.
And who does the enforcement on that?
That's a good question. That was my question.
Code
I was
enforcement
reading
officer?
it.
Why are you guys
David.
laughing?
Do you have one of those?
We're working
We
on
have
it.
applicants.
Yeah, we have applicants. That to me seems like something that we could tackle pretty easily, especially if something's so close is already written.
I think
What do
it's
you
still
think?
gonna be a hot topic, but I think having at least a basis for what nearby communities have done would be helpful.
It's fair.
Yeah.
Well, the first step is kind of tracking it
Mhm.
and then deciding.
Yeah. Well,
we
and I
don't even
looked
know.
up how many do we have, and there's a few different listings, but I would say conservatively 40 to 50
Serious?
Alpine?
on all different, if you check a
Wow.
lot of different VRBO,
That's a-
Airbnb.
That's a
That's
pretty good
significant.
percentage of
Yeah.
our,
It is.
That's significant.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
I don't know how many of them are active. Those are ones that were
Oh,
listed in the past.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah.
Because it's
so
just, it's basically our neighborhood and Jeremy's neighborhood. 'Cause-
That's all the ones that I've seen.
Yeah, because Alpine Meadows, I believe in their covenants, it's
Doesn't
not
allow
allow it.
Right.
And your Riverview Meadows, I assume, probably doesn't allow it.
Do you?
no,
But there's
it's,
no
it's
enforcement.
allowed.
There's some in their neighborhood.
Is it allowed?
Yeah.
30 days in Riverview?
Yep.
Wow. We don't allow that.
Scott Development doesn't allow that.
Buffalo
Yeah.
Sage,
Yeah,
we're not allowed to do short-term
Yeah.
rentals.
Okay.
God.
yeah.
In like a condo situation, that's,
That would be-
yeah, it'd be brutal, but,
I used to live in a city where the VRBOs became so dominant,
Right,
and the noise, the destruction.
right.
The following, no rules, no codes, no speed limit. I mean, it
Right.
got so out of control, the entire city abolished all of them.
Well, and what I liked about this
That's how wild
is,
it got. It was
Yeah.
so out of control, and no one was happy, and
Right.
the owners were miserable, and nobody had respect for the residents there, and it turned into such a fiasco. They
Yeah.
pulled every single one,
Yeah.
put a kibosh on all those.
that's why we're doing this.
Yeah,
So,
it's important,
yeah,
really.
well, and this would require the owner's information, contact information to be given. I had an issue with an Airbnb near us, and I had to go on GIS and look up their information and try the 4 different cell phones, just so I could tell them, please pick up your trash. I didn't want to be mean about it. I was having difficulty figuring out how to contact them. So I'm sure that's been a problem for other people.
Short-term rentals are.
An animal.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
keep moving down the list here. So impact fees, is a major topic. I think a lot more research has to be done on it. Understanding, huh?
I guess as far as research is, the only thing is you have to have a rational basis
Right.
connected to what you're doing. So it really is figuring out your plan. It's more of an engineering and accounting thing.
Okay.
You have to show that your fee is connected with the future potential outgrowth in 10 years and the impact on it.
Right.
And that will uphold, that'll stay up in court, so,
Okay.
I mean.
So you're saying that we can come up with it relatively easy, we have our engineer tell us what it would cost,
You do a
what
study,
percentage,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, you do
Yeah.
a study of what based on the current growth and future prospective growth within the next 10 years, what impact that's going to have on
On
services, water,
infrastructure.
sewer,
Okay.
you know, law enforcement, and come up with a number. And
Right.
it's based on something that you can point to and say, yes, we have evidence for this, here it is, this is what our expert says. I guess if someone wanted to challenge it, they could, but the only thing that the courts have required is you have to have some rational basis
Okay.
for how you come up with your figure. You just don't go and say, well,
I
our
want
impact
this
fee is
number, right,
$10,000.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Every time, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We can come up with that.
Well-
I reached out to Afton and they said they'd come talk to us about the challenges.
They're challenged.
Yeah, well, they,
I think it's, there are challenges. Yes, that sounds easy. Thank you, Jim. But I think it's probably, there's gonna be some pushback on that from developers or whomever, but I think it's needed.
Well-
If we were, for example, there is there's a difference. We can't necessarily charge an impact fee and give it to the fire district, for
No,
example.
you can't, yeah. No.
That has to come through the county, but the
Right.
county is also looking at impact fees.
Yeah.
So it,
it's a good time.
the
to look
timing
at
is
it.
great
Yeah.
to start to look at it, so.
But I think one of Afton's part is theirs was very arbitrary. and
Right,
capricious.
okay.
You know, they
Okay.
just,
They just came up
they
with
came
numbers.
up with a number.
Right.
And when they did try to do it correctly, they had the head of their utility board, who was an economist, I mean, he had the background for it, but he's coming up with the amounts of the fees and everything, and it came in a lot more than everybody wanted to pay or
Right.
wanted to charge.
Right.
And in my memory is that's when they backed off and said, hey, we'll just say 3,500. You just can't.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
What,
Okay.
did you have something you wanted to say?
I mean, I do, during the course of this evening, and I have to leave, and then,
Uh-huh.
so during the course of this evening, I've heard growth come up a lot. We're gonna have a lot of new businesses, we're gonna have a lot of new growth, we're gonna have a lot of new people. Where is there like a vision somewhere that outlines what the plan is? Because I'm not clear on what that growth is, and we're gonna have a lot of new this and a lot of new that. What is the this and that? And what is the time frame? Because, we're talking about, in the next 10 years, I'm not clear on what is this town gonna look like in the next 5, 10 years? And do we know that, or where is
Vegas.
that documented? Because right now, in the last 3 years, the town's grown by 50%, and just population-wise.
Well,
I don't
in the
know
last 10 years, it grew 40%.
Well, and I don't know that. I just know that when the last sign that's out there says 800 and something, now it's 1,200 and something, it's a 50% growth in 2-3 years. So, and I don't know what.
Well, it was 10 years.
Okay.
It's based on the
So that was,
census.
it's on census.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not because when they decide to change the sign.
47.6
No,
to be
but
exact.
regardless, it's grown, and I don't know what the business
And there's
community
two
has.
different signs.
Yeah, we need to talk
I
to,
had to bring this sign.
Hasn't been updated.
But I mean, it's just, I don't know what businesses have been new in the last few years or what's planned, but that's all that, I've probably heard the word 50 times at least today about growth. And I'm not clear as to what this town's gonna look like in 50 or 5 or 10 years, and I don't know if that's documented somewhere, because I'd love to know what it's gonna look like.
we can't necessarily dictate what it's gonna look like 5, 10, 15, 30 years, some of those.
Do we have that?
I'm sorry?
Do we have a vision or?
So the vision is called the master
Master
plan.
plan.
Yeah,
Have a master plan?
we have a master plan. It was done in 2006, and we are currently working on an update to it, and we're running into some roadblocks with that. But we more than likely are going to be updating the old master plan with new data, new everything. But there's no doubt Alpine is the fastest growing town in Wyoming, and it's really tough to hold back the development, but we can have a say in what it's gonna look like,
Smart design.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean,
Slow, conscious,
right, I was gonna say it has to be deliberate, and it has to be purposeful.
yes.
You can't just go, oh, that looks good.
But the problem is, if someone buys 10 acres, they have every right to develop it, right?
They do, but going back to an earlier point is,
Does it fit the plan?
right, does it fit into the plan? Because you can't just annex it in without having a clue what they want to put in it.
That's exactly right.
Right.
Yeah, so it all has to relate back to our master plan, right, so
Right. Because if
that-
it's a little willy-nilly.
Well,
Yeah.
and we've been reactive, I think, in my personal opinion, this past year, as a new council member, I feel my actions have been more reactive as opposed to proactive. And so I think that's a very high priority, to have a cohesive plan. We've talked to planning and zoning about getting zoning districts in place, just consciously looking at what do each one of us as residents want to see in this town. And so I'm hoping that we can start
Then-
dedicating more time to that.
The update to the master plan is going to be, and it's intended to be, community's feedback. So whenever that happens, you will have your voice heard for sure on what you want to see in which area.
Because I remember filling out a survey a couple of years ago and I never saw it.
That definitely needs to be updated,
Yeah.
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 And, cause I mean, I just get the sense that this is gonna be, it already is an overflow to Jackson, but it's gonna look like Jackson too, in a lot of respects, and there's a reason why people live here versus Jackson.
And just so you know, I grew up in Jackson. I'm a fourth generation native of Jackson. Alpine is, right now, what Jackson used to look like 40 years ago.
I don't doubt that.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't know how we can stop it. So,
You really can't. Well, like the Cobblestone Hotel. No, a lot of people don't love the Cobblestone Hotel, but it fit into all the correct parameters, and there was nothing that we could do to
It
say,
fills a
no,
need,
you
too.
can't build this.
it feels a need, so.
And it fills a need.
That's fine, yeah.
So if they're proposing some kind of construction that fits in the parameters, we have to allow it.
Yeah.
All right, understood, but you can control it, that's your purpose, is to
Yeah.
control it. I mean, that is what you guys do, so you have full control over it. There's no
Because look at
question.
what, the heart of Jackson looks like. They wouldn't change that look
Right,
of that area.
right.
They have it, that look for a reason, you know, so.
Right, but back to your controlling it, I understand what you're saying, but who am I to say that, no, we're not gonna put a hotel in now? You know what I mean? To a certain extent, people buy that land and they can do with it what they want. If it's zoned in the right area, all those things, if they're doing it right, and that was zoned commercially, they're within, totally going with our master plan, the whole thing, everything was on the up and up, we can't stop that. But what we can't,
control what it looks like.
that,
Yeah, you can know what it looks like, but.
that's not what she's saying,
No,
but,
that's not what I'm saying,
no.
right.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I know, we can- no, yeah.
Okay, I need to get this back on order, so, but thank you, we appreciate your comments.
No, it was just coming from like a newcomer that I just.
Yeah.
That's just
No, thank you.
our observations. So, thank
For
you.
sure.
So,
Thank you for coming.
okay.
Thanks, Mariah.
So impact fees, let's just skip right over that chicken ordinance, because Christine didn't stick around for that. Oh, I guess let's talk about it.
Yes, please.
Dan wants to talk about it.
So this one, I think, is also gonna be a pretty big hot topic. I don't know how much, I think people will definitely turn out for this one. I don't have any problem talking about it and putting it as a high priority, but
Have
what
we
do you guys
gotten
think?
any more emails? Have we gotten any more questions? Because I know that Maida, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, was the one that brought it forward in the first place, but has there been any other
I think-
community push?
No, I think we talked about doing a community survey to try and get some feedback on how people feel about it, because there's very strong feelings on both sides.
Either way, right?
And we kind of need to do that before we proceed any further with it.
Yeah, I agree.
So how do we go about doing that?
I think the conversation was about a hearing, but you'd almost have to have an ordinance to have a hearing. Or you could just have a meeting, I guess, I don't know.
Or send out
So just the
I'd really like to have a survey, because if we have a meeting, it's gonna.
Should we start with the survey? How do we go about get random people, or
No,
Like
I
we-
think we
I
would
have
just
no
make
idea.
one, right?
mail it to who?
Does it
Well-
go out with their bills?
Yeah, I mean, we have everybody.
water bill.
Their water bills are cards, or postcards, but we could certainly do a mass mailing.
Can we do like a, poll on our website or something like that?
Yeah,
We
because
could, but-
we did that before in the past with,
But you can't control who gets it.
so that's true, you can't control that
You
it's
only
just.
want people who live within the incorporated boundaries of Alpine to weigh in on this.
You can narrow that down like we did, with the past survey that we did 2 years ago.
How'd you do that?
Because we have the emails from residents, so we only sent that survey out to residents. It's not to say that non-residents didn't fill it out, but it was a way to mitigate
Okay.
that.
Do you feel like the majority of residents have email addresses?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
Mel has them all for water
Yeah.
and sewer billing.
I just think if you want to get, I don't know if it needs to be like a random, I don't know how you make sure it's
Scientific.
a lot more scientific than just, yeah.
I would just say everybody.
I mean,
But how do you
perhaps
get
the
everybody?
fairest
That's
way
the
is just to have a public hearing
Yeah.
and notice it up and say,
Yeah,
we're gonna talk about chickens. I mean, we're a small town, it sounds kooky, but we're gonna talk about chickens. So we're gonna have this hearing, there's people who want the ordinance, we're gonna say, all right, everybody's gonna be nice to each other. The first one that pops off buys chicken for the other.
Chicken eggs.
So that'd be nice. We can't do like weapons on each side, and
Okay.
pro and.
Dan, what would you say?
And until next year.
I mean, I just wanna ask, what is the specific problem with having a chicken ordinance? Is it noise?
Noise, smell.
Noise, smell, all the stuff.
All
People's responsibility with their animals.
Yeah.
'Cause they're doing
Now-
so well in their
Enforcement
jobs.
when
Cause it's almost like it's, that, when you say it like that, it's two different pieces. People not taking care of their animals, like.
Well, it's not a
dogs,
chicken
cats.
problem, it's a people problem.
Yeah, we could put chickens everywhere.
Irresponsible.
I mean, that's really what it is. It's
Irresponsibility.
It's just not, I mean, technically, it's not a chicken problem, just like dogs are not a dog problem.
Exactly.
They're a people problem.
Problem.
So-
And it's a matter of
So do you
mitigating
say
the
it-
problems.
It's
Of
not
people.
allowed?
Well, it already is not allowed.
Right.
The
But
only,
then
the only
people-
animals allowed in, the town of Alpine are cats, dogs, and I think that's it. Cats,
Well,
fish, you can do a fish,
Things that
yeah.
can cage you.
but there is actually an animal ordinance.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
That prohibits.
yeah,
Yeah.
Poultry,
waterfowl and,
pigs, horses, yeah, you can't have horses, can't have pigs, can't have chickens.
What about on the ballot? What about vote? What if we put it on the ballot?
Then you're governing by referendum, and if you're fine, if you wanna do that and go through the expense and do that, that's
Right.
fine. But, you know,
Yeah, you could.
And
let-
everybody could
Why?
have chicken.
yeah.
why, you know, why have a town council and a mayor if we're just gonna put everything to the vote?
On the
of
ballot.
people? I mean, that's the unfortunate
That sounds
position
good.
of what
That means
you
I don't have
guys
to be
do.
here.
I'm sorry.
That's what
why
we
you
signed
took
up
this
for.
job,
Yeah.
was to use your wisdom to decide how to do this and represent your constituents. You know, are you talking to your constituents? You got some to say yes, you some to say no. That's why I just think if you just, let's dedicate a hearing.
Do a hearing.
I'll bring Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I think,
Give
so,
it to
If you're
both
bringing
sides of
KFC,
the
then
aisle.
let's keep working through this and then we'll work
Have
back to
spicy
see.
and regular.
Well, I like Andrea's idea and
Yeah, if we can get a,
Jim's idea.
somehow figuring out, a
A
survey
survey
would be nice and
or
then
a-
we just have a
or a
public hearing.
public hearing.
Yeah.
yeah.
But we need to have some sort of scientific way of doing it. Utility billing, we have discussed for the last year that, and we think it's real important to separate the fees. So we have, Monica, do you want to just talk about this real quick?
Yeah, but, like pulling out the fees, that's similar to what Christine's doing. The land use development code does not contain fees. It contains references to fees in which are all enacted by a fee ordinance separately. And I think that's a system that we probably need to do with everything. There's a lot of fees across the board, and it would be nice to just start tracking them in one document and just simply review and edit that document annually instead of
Yep.
searching through 50 ordinances to try to figure out what that is in there and updating them. The other thing is, and I know I've sent you guys this information before, but we are losing money every time we're putting in a water connection. And so, the town needs, the council, the decision that has to happen is, do we raise connection fees? Oh, I'm sorry. Do we raise connection fees, or do we, or do we instead change the way we do connections? I think that's the big question that comes in to play there. The other issue is, I know Christine's had some historical concerns with, the way ERUs are charged, and in reviewing it, it's a rather simplistic way of determining what a equivalent residential unit is on here.
Yeah, it's so
Alpine isn't what it used to be. It's not just single-family homes anymore. And this really doesn't cover the things that are probably going on in Alpine. And as you know, connection fees are essential to be able to long-term replace the infrastructure. So for this, I did share with Kevin and Coulter, and they said it is very lacking and probably not adequate in any way. So there would be a time frame of at least 6 to 8 weeks for them to look at it and come up with some sort of recommendation about how we should, determine ERUs.
And I think it's very important that you all look at that exhibit, because it's hard to fit specific projects into that
Yeah.
exhibit and determine exactly what your connection
Well,
fee
and
is
yeah.
going to be, or your
That's-
ERU for that particular.
That's why I think we need to be more flexible and be able to change the fee structure on a however often basis without necessarily having to change the utility ordinance. So if we pull out the fees, we can have this general ordinance, the law basically says this is what, the utility structure is gonna be, the whole thing, and we pull out the fees, so we can look at that when a new project comes up, something that we have never come across, and we don't know how to bill for it, then we can look at it again at that point.
Yeah, and back in the day when this was developed, apartments aren't what they are today. Apartments were, 2 bedrooms, a living room and a kitchen,
No laundry.
no laundry, my parents lived we all lived in an apartment before they bought their first house in 1976. And we went to the laundromat every week to do our laundry. And so apartments now have they probably use, if the same amount of a 2-bedroom apartment may use as much water as a 2-bedroom house, and they're paying substantially less.
Yes.
So those are the things, and the process does say we should go back and look at it, but nobody's ever gone back and, I don't think
It does
anybody
just-
goes back
just
and
clarify
looks
that.
at it and reassesses their ERUs.
The current ordinance does say that we have the right to go back and look at our usage a year after.
And charge them additional, but that's.
And we've never done that, so.
It's never happened.
What do we charge, what's the charge for a sewer tap, water and sewer tap?
$9,000 per ERU,
Yep.
And single family is what?
1 ERU.
Let's not get bogged down with that. Let's keep moving here. We're already at 9:00. So liquor license.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting we raise sewer at this time. Water, though, we're losing
connection.
about $4,000 to
The connection.
$5,000 every time we install
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what makes it really important to me, that we actually get this done sooner rather
Yes.
than later.
Yeah.
So I think that one's a high priority. Liquor license ordinance, what's that one about? Oh,
You wanted training language, and I know I looked, Jim, I couldn't find it. I know I got something about
Thanks, Christine.
edits being made to, I think they're getting rid of the bar. What are they getting rid of, Christine, and the bar and
thought she was gone.
the liquor license?
Bar and grill, they're
Getting rid of that
allowing for
license.
more bar and grill licenses.
Yeah,
from what I
they're
understand.
changing all of that.
They're changing some of the verbiage on bar.
So I don't know if that requires
It
anything.
doesn't, it's just how many that are allowed.
Okay.
That doesn't require us.
Okay, but the training language,
Yeah, I think the intention of this was the statute
Thank you.
doesn't necessarily require tips training, or it does,
But I
but
thought we already had tips training in the ordinance.
No.
Sure.
I don't know if we do, and that's why this came up.
I think we do.
Because I remember
Tips training.
doing it at one time.
You forgot to put that in there. But there's just a few, small changes I think that we wanted to make to the ordinance, just to make it a little bit,
Do I have that one?
more stringent than the current statute.
Okay.
So ordinance 268 is health, safety, and sanitation noise control. This is Sue's noise control, I guess.
It says currently under 40, are we talking?
What is this, decibels? Is this decibels?
Which one are you at? I'm sorry.
K.
268.
Yeah, so on 268, the change that needs to be made is, we had to take down the, compression brake signs prohibiting them because they were actually posted in, zones that were 45 miles per hour. Our ordinance says, currently under 40 miles an hour. The recommendation is that we edit that to under 50 miles per hour so that we can hang back up the signs and make people happy again, because we do get a lot of
Okay,
complaints.
so this is 50 miles per hour.
Yeah, and then the other thing is the language, YDOT has, Craig had met with them, and it says engine brakes. They want the word, they say that the enforceable word is compression
Compression
brakes.
Well, it used to be,
Okay.
it also
So-
used to be Jake brakes, and that is a
Yeah.
manufacturer's name of brake.
Oh,
So
okay.
it needs to just read compression.
Compression.
That's
Yeah.
easy.
This one's actually pretty easy, and I think there would be people that would love it if we did this sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so I think, if that's something those edits could be made quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, we did, back to your
Tips?
tips, there was an amendment to the ordinance. I don't know when it was, but I have all the language for it. It's requiring tips training.
Okay, maybe we're covered, maybe, I mean, that's not a huge priority anyways.
Well,
but-
no, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So you
No,
think there was
that's
an
great.
amendment to the ordinance?
There is an amendment, yeah, because I have the draft of it sitting
Okay.
here. It had to have been after August 17th, 2021. I can send you the draft.
Wow.
So,
Interesting. So pretty recent.
Oh, I'll go
I'll
look in
just
the
send you
final.
the draft, and then you can-
Okay.
Okay, what's 196, encroachment?
So this is a conversation we've been having, and when I searched for the ordinance to include it in this, what I realized is there is a permit application, there is a permitting process for encroachments, and we don't do that.
What is an encroachment?
So we have a right-of-way.
All right,
Anywhere that we have a right-of-way, there is a requirement by ordinance 196 that anybody who encroaches in any way, shape, or form, by excavation, they want to build a fence, whatever they want to, maybe they want to plant grass, so it matches their yard, that they need a permit to do so. And there is supposed to be a fee, but it's not specified in here. So, through those conversations, we have an ordinance, we had a process. In 2018, somebody created an application, so,
Okay.
but nobody
Did
does it.
anything with it? Okay.
Yeah, so, but the thing is, Jim, that I wanted to ask you about, so we have utilities that dig our streets.
Right.
They don't get a permit. We can make them get a permit, right, to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
we also,
They get an easement.
That's a prescriptive easement.
That's an easement from
Yeah.
the power company.
yeah, but they still have to get permission to dig up our road.
Yeah, and there's usually within, I wanna look in the road ordinance, there's requirements for a permit.
That's
And-
theirs.
No, the road is not theirs.
Their property their easement is right there. If they gotta get to it, they'll dig it up. They don't need your permission.
But we can require them to go underneath the road instead of tear up our road, for example. Jim, am I
Yeah,
incorrect?
yeah, you're right. And
Oops,
and there,
sorry.
there should be, I don't know if we have a
Sorry.
TCAP ordinance, I wanna say we had a TCAP ordinance that
Step on it.
says how they're supposed to do it.
For example, if we get Grays repaved,
Yeah,
if the federal government repaves that, we are not gonna let anyone dig up that road.
You're gonna have to bore it,
Yeah,
yeah,
so we need to make sure that
yeah,
that's clarified someplace in
Right.
an ordinance,
right.
anywhere. But,
Right, so an easement is just a non-possessive right to use land, but it also requires that if you're going to disturb that easement, even though that's your easement, you have to put the thing back the way it
Yes.
was. You take down a tree, and I'll give you an example. Lower Valley cut down a tree on our property over here at McCoy Creek entrance. They ended up paying $50,000 for cutting down our tree. Okay, so you just can't go do whatever
Right.
you
Yeah.
want in
Right.
the ordinance.
But I mean, they have to put it back. I mean, I'm not.
Exactly
Yeah, yeah.
like it was.
yeah, and- or the easiest way is, like we have with our road, we have a brand new road, we're not gonna let them dig
Yeah.
up our road to bury a line. So anyways,
You just,
that,
I think we already have a capping ordinance, but you can just change it, that it's gonna have to be bored.
Okay,
yeah,
And that's the easiest way to do
that
it.
is,
unless otherwise
Right,
permission to.
right.
So, to circle back, we've got utility billing as a big priority. The ordinance 268 is, I think, relatively easy one to tackle. Annexation, I mean, yes, we need to update that, but I don't think it's a huge priority like for first quarter, unless you think it is.
I think we're getting a lot of annexation applications.
Well, so this is why I think it's important. I think we need to charge a $2,500 fee. I can tell you the amount of time that Christine spent on it, and then she went away, and then I got it, and so I'm doing 2 of them currently. So it's a lot of time. There's a lot of time that is invested in these. There's engineering fees that are going to come out of this as well, because we have to talk to the engineer about what it's going to cost to connect
So do you want to
into the
do it
system.
sooner rather than later?
I would prefer it,
Okay.
because I think we need to do the whole package, not just an ordinance. It needs to require an application, and we need to lay out our process.
Yeah.
Other municipalities have laid that out by saying, prior to filing for an annexation, you're required to meet with the planning staff ahead of time to discuss the annexation. It requires it to be submitted to a certain person on a certain time frame.
Yep.
In advance of meetings. And so I think if you allow Christine and I to come up with the process that we would like to see that would make everything really consistent, I think we can get you something pretty quickly. Because annexation, although one of the, I think, priorities is refer it to planning and zoning, because you do set the zoning. Setting the zoning, though, is not really part of annexation, and Jim, maybe you can help speak to this. I mean, when I reviewed all of this, because Christine was working on it, I got it, and then I wanted to make sure it's doing it right. So I read every word of the statute and created a checklist for myself, so I didn't miss anything. And in doing so, it was pretty clear to me that annexation is, the requirements of what council has to do are fairly limited. Fairly limited. Is it health?
Yeah.
I mean, so.
Is it contiguous to the town?
Yeah, it really is. So I don't know, is there restrictions on how erroneous we can make this process? Like, is there things we can't do?
What do you mean by?
Well, I mean, I'm not familiar
You can say,
with.
no, we're not gonna annex.
I'm
you.
but no,
You
I'm
don't
talking
have a
about.
right to be annexed.
Is there things that we can't require them to do through this process? I don't know, and Christine's left now. I don't know what a PUD is.
Planned
I don't know what that is.
So basically, it comes in and says, this is how we're gonna divide it.
Okay, so-
And it might not fit within this zone, but it fits within
Okay,
this zone. Yeah.
But if we're annexing raw ground, I don't know.
You
Is
can
there
put-
is there a ramification of asking for that?
On the land use development to get that.
Yeah, but let's just say,
But what if there's not one and now we required one?
Require what?
What if somebody wants to annex in 20 acres and they just want to annex in 20 acres and now
Well, but that's-
how's that work?
Remember, we had the little issue over here and they were wanting to annex in and
Yeah.
and they wouldn't tell us, or they didn't have their plans, or
Yes.
what was the.
They're still
we're
working on a market
collaborating on the market I mean.
They did a market study, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, you don't have to. You say, come back and tell us why you want, what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
but once they, the statute's clear, once they submit it,
you
a
don't have to
petition-
approve it.
but once they submit a petition, the clerk has to, within 10 days, certify that it's complete. And that there's a process, so
Yeah.
I don't know,
But
that's what I'm
the petition does
asking.
not grant them the right to annex, even if it's 100% correct. It
Okay.
still comes back on your governing
On to
body to
them.
decide whether that's in the best
Okay.
interest of the town's health, safety, and welfare to take in this 20 acres, especially if, let's say, we don't know what you're gonna, you have no plans, I just
Right.
wanna be in the town. Okay, but then you understand you're gonna be subjected to the zoning, we're gonna bring you in, we're gonna put you in R1,
Right.
you know?
No, and I 100% agree that if there's not a master plan that delineates the future annexations, then planning and zoning is truly the appropriate place to look at what is consistent with the area and
Right.
and determine, like, you're not gonna smack a commercial district in the middle of a residential.
Right.
You know, so I would
The
expect that
master,
they
master
can
plan in general,
then make
if
a
I'm not mistaken.
recommendation.
What's that?
the master plan in general is an overlay, that we have
Right.
maps overlaid, and we want commercial here, we want residential
Right.
here, and that's
And
what
I
we've
mean, I
done
think
through that
you're-
process.
Yeah, I think.
But that
your
doesn't
master-
necessarily mean that you have to do that.
Right, I mean, you can not follow your master.
It's a guiding
plan,
principle,
it's-
but
it's
it
ju-
doesn't-
Yeah, it's like the pirate code, the motor guide rides.
The pirate
But, I
code.
mean, I think if you're gonna do your master plan, we need to start looking,
We are, yeah, that's, we have to,
Yeah.
yeah. We need to
On it-
zoom out a little
on
bit.
invading Idaho.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, invade,
So in this, then, you want also in this ordinance, this planned unit
Development.
development concept requirement. Okay.
I think the more information we can.
Well, no, and I think there should be an I think we should get everything from them.
Yeah.
However, when you say requirement,
Right.
it means it's required. And then no application's complete if they don't have one,
Right,
yeah, you just can't.
ever,
right.
even if they're not needing one for some
Well, as
reason.
far as a plan.
Yeah.
Well,
That's all,
I guess
that's all, that's all I'm saying.
Statutory minimums for what you're saying, there's statutory minimums for what the state says, this is what you have to have for an annexation. We can't really mess with that.
No.
But you can come in and say, we're not gonna annex you, you know, we've got your application, but this is what we're going to require you
Yeah.
to do for us to do that. That doesn't have to be statutory. I mean, it can be, you know, based on your master plan or.
Okay.
Or, you know.
No, I just want to make sure, because in reading it, I was pretty clear. It's a pretty simple process.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's, and I'm sure was by intention for some reason.
Well, the idea is that you, if you're looking at it in general planning, you want to move your population centers more towards municipal areas, so you have open space. And, you know, you want to encourage people to, so you're not running infrastructure, I mean,
Yeah,
Etna. That's all I have to say, one word.
Yeah.
You know, you've got all of these, their new subdivision that they're gonna put in down there, and they've got all these enhanced septic systems, and the county's allowing it without thinking, hey, there's another subdivision just down the ridge from them. Is their effluent going to be going into these people's wells? But, I mean, that's the.
I know, that's why.
That's the beauty of our county.
90, right?
We also just lost our planning
Yes.
person for the
We have an
county,
interim
so.
now.
yeah.
They hired someone?
They have an interim. They have somebody in the interim. Yeah,
I didn't hear that.
yeah.
Okay, so our main
Okay.
priorities are annexation, ordinance 296, utility billing, ordinance 268, health and safety. That one's pretty
That's
easy.
Yeah,
Encroachment, I mean, that seems
I think
relatively
it's,
easy,
I
right?
think it's fine.
It's fine the way it is already.
We just have to follow it.
Right, so, okay, that's perfect. One more thing to follow. Any other things you want?
Impact fees have to be a priority in the next year.
Yeah, in the next year for
Yeah.
sure. I just don't know about, I'm thinking like quarter one,
Oh.
what we want to take on.
I'd like to start bringing some revenue in.
What is it?
Impact fees,
Like we wanna do it in court.
we have very limited,
I think we can get some pricing.
To me, on a scale, the short-term rentals are a bigger deal than that, because in my view, the short-term rentals interweave a school, it interweaves, well, Christine's not here, the definition of kitchens. So if you look at where the trend is going, according at least to, what's his nuts at Star Valley Bank.
That's my
Deb-
cousin, you know that.
What's his nuts?
Rod Jen.
What's this?
Everybody's tired.
Yeah.
That's the official name.
The last migration into this valley in the last 3 years has been folks 45 years or more with little to no kids. So you take that into account, you take homes turning over to STRs, that means we're basically developing a community that is of adults, no children. How are we supposed to get a school here if we can't control
Yeah.
one or the other?
I'm fine with that.
But
It's,
I think on
Go ahead.
the other side of your argument is the, what was it, 2 years ago, the state of Wyoming did a study for Jackson saying you needed 10,000 more
Right.
living units.
right?
Yeah.
That you're not gonna get there, so
No.
where are the 10,000 gonna go? They're gonna go in Teton County, Idaho, and they're gonna go here.
Well, and that's,
and-
but that's living units, that's what I
but-
mean, the living units here, they're changing to STRs.
Right, but you're still, I mean, the thing that you get is people who work in Jackson, who have kids, you know, they don't wanna be separated.
Yeah.
I think
that's
that,
what we've been dealing with for a long time, right? Jeremy, I don't have any problem talking about it and putting, the ordinance seems like it's already basically written from what you found. Like, you found a lot of information.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we should put that up.
yeah, so,
Yeah, I have several
We need
ordinances.
to get it done.
okay,
That we
so
can
we'll
look
put
at.
that as a high priority.
Yeah, I
too.
think I forwarded them before, but I'd be happy to do it again.
And then, I think dark sky, chicken ordinance,
I think dark sky will be easy.
I just
I
came.
don't think that's gonna be too complicated.
I got the scars to prove it.
I think, I mean, I think it's important
Really?
to keep it but I think these other
It
things are
doesn't
more
have to be
important.
Q1.
So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking, like, it's a second priority.
Mm-hmm.
Chicken ordinance is second priority. New speed limit, we need to talk to him about that.
Well, he'll clarify what his
The
intention
liquor is not
Yeah,
a high
I got a
priority either.
completely different understanding, so I apologize.
I think
It-
if we can get the chicken thing solved before spring,
Summer, yeah,
when people would be building their chickens,
yeah.
that would be good.
So maybe we shoot for, what?
Mark.
March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
No, 3 readings.
3 readings,
I mean, if we,
So we got budgets in March, April, April, May, and June.
we don't wanna stack a bunch of stuff.
so maybe like March-ish, April, no.
We could have the public hearing, we need to do a survey first, right?
What, if we can do a survey, that, to me, that's easiest.
I think so.
Like, just send it out and they'll send it back.
Let's
Everybody can
start with
just
the survey, and we can actually do that
Yeah.
sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
We'll look at the,
Okay.
yeah, and then we'll figure out the priority. I don't think anything else is a huge priority on this list, do you guys?
Okay.
So then, are you saying for impact fees, I would still push to do that Q1, because we're
Yeah,
getting
that's what
so
I've got
many
it.
developments coming across.
I've got it on Q1,
So I think, yeah, do we need,
That
we probably need to get pricing on
a
the,
survey.
on the study.
I would love to find someone to pay for it too, so we need to look and see if there's grant
roll
money.
it back into your impact fee.
Huh?
Roll it back into your impact.
Impact
of
fee,
course.
Yeah,
yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Which one of these would create the most cash revenue for the town?
that was my point. I think impact fee.
That's how I think about it. It's like, priority number 1 is to create cash for you. Which one of these is the most cash lucrative one?
But with your impact fees, you have to put those into reserve accounts.
Right.
It's not something that.
Yeah, we can't spend that
can't
money.
utilize it.
So
Yeah,
you have-
so annexation fees go right in the general fund when they apply. And,
Utility billing.
utility
So then-
building,
But
utility
then that's-
billing.
To answer
Utility
your
bill.
Yeah.
question, utility billing is
Yeah.
the quickest way.
So, to me, that's number one.
That's what we've got.
Yeah.
And then you go down, and even if the cash is going into an account or it's going somewhere else, I think it's your fiduciary responsibility to manage that.
Yeah.
My judgment.
Yeah, yeah,
My
well,
words.
by,
Statute.
by law, we have to,
Account for it.
depreciation, Monica.
We have to, yeah,
We
we're
have to
supposed to
fund
fund
depreciation.
depreciation, and, so that will be done at the end of this fiscal year for the first time.
Yeah.
Thank
So-
you, Monica.
Well done, well done.
That was
We-
blood, sweat, and tears from our clerk.
There's a lot that led up to that happening, but yes, for the first time, we are going to be funding depreciation, which is our fiduciary responsibility. So, but yes, I think we're gonna focus on
I feel silly coming.
utility billing first, and we can do these in conjunction, but there's a lot of work that has to happen to write the ordinance and all that stuff, but nothing's gonna happen while we're sitting here, so we should probably just adjourn unless anybody else has anything else to add. Thanks for coming, Jeremy. We knew you were off the phone because we got the hold music again.
Oh, you got that? I was trying to think of what, if that was,
What was that music?
is that the Bugs Bunny and the Barber?
Maybe.
Okay, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Can.
You guys can
Thank you
turn off
so
your
much.
microphones.